Ladies and gentlemen, the hour has struck 7. We're going to get started with our meeting. It's always great to have a full room of folks. We'll start out with our traditional moment of silence and in anticipation of our Relay for Life event that'll be 6 to 11 this Saturday in Jawbone Park. Let's be ever mindful of those folks who have battled cancer and those who are still waging their battle, and especially those folks who waged the battle and did not prevail. Thank you very much. Mr. Bob Skinner, would you be so gracious as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's terrific having you all here. One of the great things I get to do as mayor is occasionally dabble in a proclamation. And we have a very special occasionally. Yeah, occasionally. Almost every day. Well, we want to make people feel special, Robbie. Be quiet. One of our longtime employees has just retired. And I'd like Mr. Ron Kidd to come up, because after pushing 22 years of service to our waste collection area, we think you're worthy of being recognized. So Ron, come on over. It's good to see you, sir. Stand right here. This is a mayor's proclamation. Whereas Ron Kidd has faithfully, honorably, and excellently served the city of Buckhannon for more than 21 years, having commenced his long tenure with our city in 1997, and has served for many years as one of our city's most excellent waste collection employees, all with great distinction, while constantly demonstrating a work ethic beyond reproach. And whereas Mr. Kidd has served our waste collection operations during many important initiatives, playing a very important role in establishing Buckhannon's waste collection department as one of the finest utility operations in the entire state of West Virginia. And whereas Ron Kidd recently announced his well-earned retirement from his long tenure with our city of Buckhannon, effective at the end of June 2018. And whereas our city government, and particularly our city council and waste collection board, now desire to formally recognize Ron Kidd's long commitment to the advancement of our city's waste collection department during his many years of service, and further to express our city's most heartfelt appreciation for his leadership and many substantial contributions that have helped establish Buckhannon as one of the very finest and most outstanding communities in West Virginia, while wishing him, his wife Marcy, and their daughter Amanda the very best during Ron's much-deserved retirement. Now therefore, I, as mayor of the city of Buckhannon and chair of our waste collection board, pursuant to the power and authority duly vested in me, do hereby proclaim Thursday, this was actually last week. We can change that date.
You missed your
Thursday, July 12, 2018, to be Ron Kidd Day throughout our city of Buckhannon. I further urge all of our community's residents to join me, Ron Kidd's family, our city council, the members of our waste collection department, and all of our city's employees in expressing their most heartfelt thanks and appreciation for Ron Kidd's most excellent service to our community, and in wishing him the very best in his retirement. Given under my hand and the official seal of the city of Buckhannon, signed by me as mayor. Congratulations. And if we've got a lot of your waste collection colleagues here this evening, including Jeff Walmsley, and your old boss, Jerry Arnold, and some of your cohorts from out at the waste garage. Would you guys all come up so that we could get a photo op with all of you in here? It's really a celebration of the entire department.
You might have to turn sideways. Get him in.
As Jeff was lamenting, at our recent Waste Collection Board meeting, Jeff Walmsley was lamenting Ron's retirement And while he was very congratulatory and expressing how deserving he was to be able to enjoy this, he also said that he's not a guy you can replace. So hard-working fella, there's never been one that's more hard-working.
Oh, no, I'm just going to use the chair before you.
Yeah, don't fall chair.
I've done it before.
I think we're just too much for the camera is what you're trying to say.
That's what Mary said during song with
This is where you spill the coffee
I don't think.
on the inner mind reporter stuff.
Yeah, you too. Okay.
Got it? Sarah, did you get some good ones? Good. All right. Callie, we're all good from the press perspective. Again, congratulations, Ron. I heard you just went to the beach, is that right?
Yeah.
Back from Virginia Beach? Is that where you went? Great.
Thank you. Before you run off.
Oh, yeah, Jerry's got another special present too.
Before you run off.
You know, we really like Ron. I mean, how many people get the clock, right?
Get
Back out of the picture.
Ron, in recognition of 21 years of outstanding service to the City of Buckhannon Waste Collection Department, June 22nd, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Best wishes.
I thought my chair felt crappy. Where's my chair?
Cause in trouble, Mr. Reagan. Okay, now to some of our other guests. First up this evening is Dr. Sarah Stankus, our brand spanking new superintendent of Upshur County Schools, is bringing us greetings on behalf of our school system. Sarah, come on up and be heard. How are you?
Do you want to speak from right there at the podium?
Sure.
Wherever you want. It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
I want to bring all of you a small token from the Upshur County Schools, first of all. Just thank you.
Yes.
We like
And the
that.
presents.
That's awesome.
It's
Hi.
a Christmas ornament.
That's terrific.
So,
This looks like something.
thank you again. Thank you again for having me here tonight. And I just want to say hello from Upshur County Schools. As we speak, our directors and principals and the board members are meeting at West Virginia Wesleyan College for a goal-setting meeting. So it's the first type of meeting, this type of meeting that we've ever held where all of our leadership in the county are working together to set the goals. But I want to say thank you for the city, the support that you've always shown to our school, and especially during times such as this when we're ready for a new levy. And the city has always been very supportive. As the mayor said, I think it's 3-1 the vote has always been here in the city. So thank you for showing with your vote that you value education. And we're really excited about this upcoming year. Just to, first of all, take the ideas and the challenges from the people of the community. I'm from this community. I grew up and lived here. I've worked here. And I love the people of this community. And there are so many challenges that we have faced together. And I, every time, have seen the people come together and say, how can we work together to meet this challenge or to make things better? And when you think of raising, I have 3 children of my own, when you think of raising children in a place, of course you want it to be safe. You want it to be a place that they can come back to after they go to college, that you can say, hey, this would be a great place for you to raise a family. Say that to your own children. And I see so many grandparents raising grandchildren here in this community. And we know that economic development is directly tied to great education, a great education system. So if we think about a hospital bringing in a new doctor, one of the things they're going to ask, how are the schools? And so we're all in this together. It's not really a county board of education that is driving education and what happens in the schools. It's a community. So a school is just a reflection of our community, and I really believe we have a great community here, and I want that to be reflected in all that we do in our schools. So We are going to have meetings, and my door is going to be open to you to talk to me about. I want to hear the things that you have to say to me about ideas for improvement. I know one of the things that we're looking for, we want to improve math scores, and that's one of the things that we've been challenged with as a state and as a school system. How can we do that? I don't believe Mon County students are any smarter than Upshur County students, so what can we do to make sure that our students have the same opportunities as any other place in the nation? And I really want that, because I want our kids to have a great school system and work and play in this community. So, what kind of questions do you have for me?
Question for Sarah?
Oh, let's see here.
What kind of easy questions do you have for me, Mr. Riley?
One interesting thing, I was sitting with Rick Simon, Community Care, yesterday at the Development Authority meeting. He mentioned this PACS, a behavioral program that they kind of started in Braxton County. They've got great measurable results from this, and he said that Upshur County had tabled this in the previous year, and from what I've learned yesterday and then subsequently last night online, it seems like, you know, a good approach for what's happening and what can we do about it to minimize the behavioral issues in schools that a lot of times get in the way of educating. So.
Right. This is something we have on the agenda for the upcoming board meeting to talk about. So we know that mental health is definitely something that we are going to have to address, and that traumatized children are less ready to learn. So if a child has faced trauma at home or in his or her life, that it does impact their learning. So so often many of our children are facing things at home that you and I maybe can never imagine having faced when you were growing up. But we know that there are challenges, and I think bringing community care into the schools will definitely help, because we have limited resources, so that's going to help us at no cost to bring that service in. Thank you.
Comment. How long have you been on the board now?
I started July 2nd. I've been really...
Right, okay. And last week Sarah called me at the American Legion, because we've worked together before, and she wasn't upset. She was just really disappointed. She needed a flagpole. They don't even have a flagpole at the Board of Education.
We're going to fix that.
We're going to fix that, though, yes. So I just want to say that's one of the things that they've always done with patriotism and Americanism with the children. Union School was always one of the best at it, and a lot of other schools have followed suit. Okay, so you're starting that. Look at the middle school now.
Yes.
Okay, it's awesome. So
that's something that's very near and dear to my heart, because my dad was a World War II veteran, and my father-in-law is retired from the military, and so our family is very committed to the veterans and military people of this community. So that's something I really want to do, is put that flagpole up right away.
The flagpole too, but the curriculum on Americanism and patriotism is a part of the curriculum throughout the state of West Virginia now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. So
that's
we're
good.
proud of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that that we've talked about a lot in our family is we have such a great reputation outside of Buckhannon and Upshur County and the state and the region for being a great community to live, and it's beautiful. The flowers, Main Street's full of businesses. We have that down. But one of the things I think that we're not excelling at is how we're portraying the quality of our schools out that's on the internet. Is what I'm trying to get at. And even though the sources may not always be the most credible, it's what people pay attention to. And I think we really need to work hard to make sure that, you know, that we're touting our successes, that if good things are happening at the high school and in the elementary school and the middle schools, we need to be sharing that. That needs to be on the forefront. Is when, if you Google BUHS right now, not a lot of positive feedback comes back. I'm an alum of BUHS, and I don't like that. I don't like seeing that Buckhannon Upshur High School isn't, at the near the top where it should be. I think we need to be really mindful and not necessarily turn a blind ear, or a deaf ear, I should say, blind eye. It's been a long day, long week.
One of those more doctorates.
Yeah. So, and I come see you. A deaf ear to the fact that we don't want to not pay attention to that. I think that's really important because, as you say, when people are considering us to as a place to live, education is on the forefront. And we don't want to lose people to Bridgeport because that's a direct competitor at this point. It's 30 minutes away. So, and I guess, so I never like to come forth with a problem without a solution. I'll help.
Thank you.
I will be happy to sit down and meet with you as to how we can work to improve our morale of what people are seeing when they're searching us and when they're coming here to view our community. Because, like you said, the whole thing needs to be top-notch, from how we look when you enter to how you're treated to the school system and to the health system. So I'd like to see us really make sure that that is a priority, that our public relations is at the forefront.
Thank you, Robbie. That's a great point, because so often that's the first impression, that online impression, that outsiders, we know how great our schools are, but so often when people are looking, they're looking at us online, so that's really important. Thank you for that.
Dr. Stank, is something I might add.
Yes.
I'm a contractor, that's what I do for a living. And in the past, I've contacted Fred Everly and said, hey, I have openings. You can create a direct pipeline here to my company of your students, employment, and there's been no action whatsoever. So I might recommend that the Fred Everly Technical Center, I know that they have some of their own administration, but I might recommend that you use what influence you can to help the people, directing that effort to connect with local business owners. So I've tried to give people jobs, and no one will give the kids. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, Colin.
So there's
That's a great point.
Well, there's a work shortage here. The
Right.
city of Buckhannon has a shortage of employees, and Jerry Arnold can attest to that. We need skilled people. Fred Everly does a great job training people, but they need to expand their curriculum, to be honest. But there's a shortage for good tradespeople in this region, and I think that an emphasis on the Fred Everly program will create a contributing workforce that can complete all the work that has to be done around here. And there are plenty of business owners, and the city as well, I'm sure, will be looking for those people to step up and fill the shoes of the people that are getting ready to retire. So my thing I would ask would be to place emphasis on the vocations. I have student loan debt when I graduated college, making less than a lot of my friends who went to vocational school, and they had no debt whatsoever. You can make a great living that way. So I would ask if you could emphasize that. That would be great.
Thank you. Dr. Harrison, the assistant superintendent who was hired, she came from higher ed. She was actually the vice president of Salem University, and she too has said that we really truly need to make those connections between what business needs and what we're training to do, because that's truly so important right now. And I believe our students really want to make that money. I know I have a 16-year-old son who really likes to make money. I don't know if he likes to work yet, but he likes to make money.
I'll give him a shake.
No, he does like to work.
Have we decided, Dr. Stankus, as to when the levy election is actually going to be? I know the last I had heard it was, are we going to do it as part of the general election in November? Are we going to do a special thing next, midwinter? Has that been determined yet?
Not at this time. The board, I think, the levy is on the agenda every meeting right now, and that's one of the things they're talking about now. Being a new superintendent, getting into the schools and getting to know the folks in the field and the community, giving me time to come out and meet with our community and see what they really want and what they need. I hope they'll give me a little time to do that because November's a pretty quick turnaround, so we'll see what happens with that, but that has not been determined yet.
Well, when you're ready to further discuss the impact of the levy and what it means for our kids, you're always welcome to come back.
I would like that. It's about 10% of our budget, and so much of school budget is already allocated to salaries and facilities and turning the lights on and making sure the building's cool and heated in the winter. So we don't have a lot of discretionary funds. That levy is very important to our schools.
Sarah, when you said you were having a board meeting today to look at objectives and goals and so forth, do you anticipate at some point in time that you might have some town hall meetings with that kind of
I would love to do that. I would love to hear from our community I mean, just like even hearing from the council, what the ideas, I'm writing these down, they're very beneficial.
I think what Colin had to say about the Fred Everly is very important. I remember an Economic Development Authority meeting almost 25 years ago. That was one of the concerns that we were raising. I think it's important that when you have a dialogue that you have to have a follow-up to see what impact that dialogue had. And we have a tendency not to do that sometimes. So I'm really happy that you're the new superintendent, and I remember you from years and years ago.
Thank you.
Don't tell any stories.
We're not that old.
Remember the beach? Okay. She was a babysitter. She's one of the best babysitters you could ever have.
You trained me well. That's how I did so well in school, right?
Well, the school
Thank you.
system and the city of Buckhannon have always been excellent partners. And, next year we're going to celebrate 25 years of the Stockard Youth and now Community Center. And for the biggest part of that time, 15 years or longer, the school system and the city and the county commission and Westland have partnered to largely sustain Stockard. So I trust that that's something we can count on your continued
Absolutely.
participation in. And as we grow the program and take some of those kids up the street and let them engage in the arts at the Colonial Theater, there's just, sky's the limit when it comes to the old place. That's the way I see it.
Absolutely. Definitely. Two places that I very, very much believe in.
Super. Anything else for Dr. Stankus before we let her get to her other meeting? We need to clone you so that you can be in these different venues at the same time.
Thanks for coming, Sarah.
Congratulations.
Best of
Thank
luck.
you. I just look forward to serving in this community. Thank you.
Good luck. Thank
Thanks
you
for
your
asking
very
me to
nice
come.
gift.
Thanks.
Thanks for the gift, Mr.
That's my first gift.
Thanks.
First gift, that's right. 2 years, first gift. I'm going to invoke my prerogative of the chair to next recognize Mr. Bob Skinner. Bob has an 8 o'clock meeting and asked if he could jump up near the top of the guest list. And Bob, you're here to talk to us about one of the matters we're going to take up later in the meeting under strategic stuff, which is the residential parking idea around the college.
Yes, David. I just wanted to bring to council some new information. One, the college this week announced a new parking fee plan for faculty and staff. In other words, we've basically dramatically reduced the price to incentivize our faculty and staff to get back on campus and park, which we think will lessen some of the stress on the adjacent streets. The second thing is we've got a new residence hall structure in terms of where students are living next year, and the college would really prefer to have a chance just to see how that's going to play out in the first few weeks. We think, we understand, we know there are issues with parking, but we also know that with the ordinance, we could create some unexpected or unanticipated issues around special events in the Performing Arts Center that when we have elementary school and middle school events there, you have parking spillover, and the city could start ticketing folks that are there for short periods of time. We want to look at the homecoming and commencement weekends and look at that and the impact that that might have. I get all the complaints for that, so I'm looking selfishly at that. I've spoken to the senior administration. I know that you and Tim went and talked to others, but the senior administration would really prefer that we consider tabling the ordinance and giving us a chance to work with the city to see if we can't find some solutions without having to write an ordinance for the community.
Bob, one of the things that we had discussed was that even if we proceeded with an ordinance in whatever form it might end up evolving toward, that we might have a period more than just the 30 days out, that we might delay it for 2 or 3 months to get the word out about it. So your suggestion, your recommendation from the Westland perspective is to maybe wait and see how this fall semester works out with these new changes?
At least the early part of the semester, let's see where we're going midway, and then if we are continuing to have issues, perhaps we could form a committee from the college to work with the city to see what we can do.
Yeah, the neighbors?
Yeah, we want to be good neighbors about this.
Sure. Okay.
Bob, would it be possible for the individuals in these neighborhoods to have some kind of conduit communication with college representatives about specific
I don't know who that's going to be at CJ. I am not volunteering for that.
What's your cell phone number?
But WC, I travel a lot during the year. I might be traveling a lot more now.
Well, I'm just
Robbie lives
thinking
here.
that-
I can give you his number. But that's let me check I'll check and see.
I mean, some way to, instead of telling a story about something that happened 2 weeks ago, maybe we could identify what's going on potentially on a day-to-day
Well, I think
basis.
I think that would be very helpful, CJ. It would give us a
And I
chance
think
to
it
see.
would give the peoples in those neighborhoods some access and relief,
Also
communication.
help us see who might be the offenders.
Well, Bob, can I ask? I created a slide presentation for the Consolidated Public Works where I went for 8 days in a row, morning, noon, and night, and photographed it. Almost 99% of those cars were Wesleyan students. Many of them had placards in the window. So, it's not that there wasn't parking down behind the nursing building. They just didn't want to walk. And they're not going to want to walk. Someone was on Channel 5, was a student who said, Wesleyan just doesn't have parking. It's not true. They do. They don't have convenient parking.
That's true.
And as long as they keep parking that far away, those students are going to continue to park on these streets and what I call parasitize that community. And right now, if you drive through there, it looks like what I call Shangri-La. There's like every other street up through there. It looks perfect. As soon as those students come back, every single space is taken, and 99% of them are students or employees. So I don't see any option of making us go through this again. I've watched this for year after year after year, and summer comes and you forget. And then it's all good again. Then the students get back, and by Christmas, you're furious. And then once the next semester starts, you're even more furious. And so that's why I talked with the neighbors down on all those streets, and they were furious too. And they said, we need some relief here. Some of them are handicapped. Some of them, their wife needs a place to park there. There's very limited space there. And for the students to take all of them, I don't see any choice. I don't see any way you're going to make those students not park there unless you put that 8 to 5. No parking by residents. It's only 8 to 5, so your weekend events aren't affected, your evening events aren't affected. It's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's a deterrent. It's simply a deterrent to the students parking there. There's nothing you're going to say to them to make them not park there instead of walk from that gravel parking lot instead of walking from those streets on the east of South Florida Street.
Tim, may I respond to you very quickly? I just spent the last 3 nights going door to door in all of those neighborhoods. Barber, Fayette,
Right.
Buckhannon, Camden, East Main, Sedgwick, Meade,
Right.
and College.
Okay.
All of those folks recognize that there are some issues that come up. They realize it's not perfect.
Right.
But I will tell you that the overwhelming majority, the consensus that I got, was that they don't want an ordinance drafted. They want Westland and the city to work together to come up with a solution
Right.
that benefits everyone.
And Robbie, I can tell you, do that in the summer, you're going to get that every time. Everybody is hunky-dory, because you look at those streets, they're empty. And they can come in, their friends can come in, they can load their groceries, their guests can come in. And you ask that, you could ask me in the summer before I started this. Oh, I look out here, it's no problem. Then after Thanksgiving, you've had it, and by the spring, you've had it because it's totally parked up. You do that same survey once the students have been there for 2 or 3 months.
I will tell you that there were a few people that said, you know, that there have been vehicles that have parked there for 3 months at a time and never moved. But they also have said, they also told me that they were able to find parking where, you know, in close proximity to their house. It was very, very rare that they couldn't park somewhere close by. I also noticed that there are a lot of driveways in those areas.
Right.
So based on what all of my conversations this week, and I spent hours going.
I spent weeks.
And well, okay, you spent weeks, I spent hours in response to what you and Mike brought to us, okay? And going and talking to people, and they don't want to, the neighbors do not want to be seen as bad neighbors to the college. They don't want to cause problems that could potentially, they don't want to have an ordinance drafted that could cause more problems. They realize that if there's an event on campus, there's really no choice but for parking to need to be to overflow onto city streets.
And that's why it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday only. That's all the time.
Okay, what about the annual conference?
That
happens, but
that population didn't even use those parking spaces this year. That population for that annual conference has dropped by 50%. They don't even have near the amount. Even on Sunday, they didn't even use any of those parking spaces. So the annual conference did not even use those spaces this year. None of them.
I mean, my vote would be that we would allow Wesleyan and the city to work together
Well, let me show you
for a
something.
semester.
And the residents.
Here's what Wesleyan does, and I'm an alumni of Wesleyan, and I work on committees. I support Wesleyan. I donate to Wesleyan. So Wesleyan buys those properties over there, and what they do next is they let them deteriorate. Then the next door neighbor, their property goes down, so they're forced to sell. Here's a property they own on Barber Street. So I want to show you. I want you to look through these pictures. I'll go over here. You can pass them around. Here's the first one. That's that property in here. They've got this fence all the way around the backyard. Says no parking, but they carved the curb out and put a gravel dump there. And the people they rent to are parked right up next to the road. Now the whole drainage of that street there, the water runs off into here. You can see there they are parked right up on the street on city property. And here's the drainage where the curb is gone. Here's where they put this fence up. All this space back here they could put parking in, but no, they parasitize the city's property. You can see they have alley access behind there. Now they're looking at putting student housing on 53 College Avenue and 42 College Avenue. And we're working on this ordinance. That's going to be 7 units in 53, and I don't know how many in 51 next year. So they propose putting a parking lot in that empty lot, but all they want to do is dump a bunch of gravel off the edge of that alley there. And you know, this is destroying our property values in this neighborhood. When we sign up to, when I decided to buy a property on College Avenue, you look at what the ordinances are, and you feel like you've got some protection by the city. This is a residential district. This has got the parking. You got this, and all of a sudden, you know, we feel like you're breaking a contract with us. I mean, this is not the only place they've done this. And to put a dump gravel in an empty lot for a parking lot for that student housing that they're proposing, they want to put foreign exchange students. That's ridiculous. If you're going to put a parking lot, build one like the $200,000 you did beside the administration building. I mean, the alumni center.
You're gonna need to give more money.
Well, I think Wesley pleads poverty, but they keep buying these things and they can't take care of them. Those houses are in horrible.
Who put the fence up?
Wesleyan.
Oh.
And that's even on, the fence is even on the city property.
I can't see the pictures on them.
And it said no parking for their property. But when it comes to our property, they want the right to use it.
We'll take it up under strategic here in a little bit and let Mr. Skinner make his 8 o'clock meeting.
Yeah,
Are you planting trees? Is that what I
Keep these?
understand?
We are
Yeah,
planting
those are
trees.
trees.
Okay, we'll keep these.
Yeah.
Yeah, pass them on.
That's the official tree planting outfit you're wearing.
Yeah, I just wanted to add new information. Let you know that we're aware of it. We're trying to get faculty and staff on campus. We'll try to get.
Tim, when you see things like this, or you develop
your own perception of what's going on. Is there a channel for you to communicate
I
with
went
the
to
college?
our zoning officer, and nothing's come
Do you
there.
ever attempt to communicate with the college, or
I
there's someone
brought it
there?
up to someone at the administration building there. I said, whose property is that? And they said, Weston. I said, look how they're parked. I mean, not the
But we have a
administration.
new
building.
vice president for,
Right, but
who I think you're going to be a really good guy.
I feel derailed here in that this is an ongoing problem that's been going on. Weston has never attempted to do anything about it, ever, until we bring it up, and all of a sudden they, you know, it's like when some of the zoning ordinances came up in those properties you had on Randolph Avenue. If it happened to anybody else, they had 30 days here and 30 days to respond. Weston gets like a 3-year saying, well, we don't have enough money, can we have a 3-year extension? That doesn't cut it with all the citizens that say, how come they get an extension? I have to respond to this zoning violation now. So the neighbors there in that neighborhood feel like we're being, you know, mistreated. So as far as saying you're a good neighbor, maybe to the city, but not to the residents, not to that residential neighborhood that I'm invested in as with a home.
Kim, if these photos are from where the old hairdresser
Yes.
used to be, that whole thing was all gravel, and that fence was put there to prevent people from
Right,
parking
but
there.
they say no parking. They don't want them parking on their properties. And then look at where Camden comes up from South
maybe
Florida
that was
Street.
an issue
And when you
back
hit Meade Street, all of a sudden it's wide, painted yellow, no parking. No, you can't park anywhere on there. But boy, you can suck the rest of that parking up, but not on that campus. It's just absolutely no parking all the way down to the football field. But as soon as you get off campus property, it's sucked up and it's parked on both sides of that thing day and night, day and night. So how come Weston gets to have all the no parking there and nobody else gets to do that?
I just have a question about the parking fee. Did you say it's reduced, was it from 45 to 5?
Yes.
Okay,
What did it used to be?
It was $45, now it's 5.
that's what I thought I heard from a couple of
Five?
friends. Just wanted to make sure.
There was a girl.
That's for faculty and staff.
There was a girl that interviewed on Channel 5, and she was a student. And she said, it's not fair that they take this parking away because Wesley doesn't give us any parking. And you know, when you took those 80-something spaces out of the Chapel Oval, that's why all that parking screwed over there. We were promised they were going to replace all that parking.
We did.
Down behind the nursing building
No, we
doesn't
did
count.
not. We
You put
added
20
10
pieces.
parking.
You
We
put
added
20
parking
places
across
down.
the street from Holloway.
That's 20 spaces.
Okay.
Okay, and you put a few up by Agnes Howard. You're way not up to the 80 parking spaces you took out of the Oval. That Oval Chapel was also central to the campus. It was close to the dorms. It was close to the gymnasium. It was close to the classroom. It was close to the dining facilities.
And Tim,
and so
the
now we got
government
to
made a $3
fail.
million gift to help us finish the science building, to put the fountain in,
Yes.
and wanted an open area.
Right,
And we did
right.
that.
And
And I don't
so-
think, I'm not going to apologize for that. And I'm going to tell you it's better
for
for our
Wesley is
students
good for
like.
Wesley, and what's good for my neighborhood, that doesn't count. It doesn't matter that all that parking was going to spill over into our neighborhood.
Dr. Reed,
Can I ask a question?
we're not going to agree on this, Tim.
I know.
Okay?
Do
We're
you
not
have a
going to
hard
agree.
time parking at your house?
I don't park. I have, but that means I need rides. That means people, I ride with my office manager, and anytime I get out of her car, we do find a place on College Avenue, then that tenement thing going on there is going to be something we need to bring up under the parking ordinance. But I get out, not only do they park up the whole street where the yellow stuff, marked yellow for the concrete access, they park on that every time. So I've got 2 bags of groceries. I even go there and shovel the snow off the other side of the street so I can get down there. And then I get down and have to ease around a car and get step in the mud and whatever goes on there because the street is completely parked up. And like I said, sometimes those cars don't move.
Does your house have off-street parking?
I have off-street parking, yes. Yes, and you know, in R2 District A, these houses were built way back before these automobiles, so many of these places only have room to maybe squeeze one piece of parking in there. I only have half a lot there, and I squeezed the parking in there. But this is not an R1. In R1, you Shangri-La, these lots are huge. You can put everything, but downtown, in this R1, there's uses that are allowed to be done in that neighborhood, and there's nowhere to put the kind of parking you have in an R2. So in my case, yes, I have problems with people dropping off my family, coming to visit, people taking me to the grocery store, come back and other groceries. But there are other families that have maybe 2 children that both are driving, and they have even 2 spaces, off-street parking spaces, but the college needs to park their car on the street because they're driving now. So that becomes impossible. And you know, like I said, if you come there at night, you come there on a weekend, it's not so bad. And all summer long, it's not bad. It looks great. It looks like the rest of College Avenue. But as soon as that school opens, anything east of South Florida Street is packed, and it's illegally parked and totally parked. And if Wesleyan's going to put a parking lot in that empty lot there, I think there should be some standards about a curb and landscaping, not just another gravel pit put out there for people to park in. That's going to ruin our property.
I
That's going to lessen our
don't have a
property
dog
value.
in this fight. I live on Bogus Street, and I didn't go to Wesleyan. So might I suggest that maybe the best thing would be to gather other neighbors who do have a lot of those problems and get them to come with you and enforce. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, and some of them are handicapped, and some of them asked me to speak on their behalf. So I've mentioned names when we were at the Consolidated Public Works. And if you've seen that slideshow, you know exactly what we're talking about. It's absolutely, totally parked up. And if you compare that from then to now, you'll see the difference that we're talking about.
Tim, let me ask you a question. Has anybody from the college seen your slideshow?
No, it was Consolidated Public Works.
Okay. I think we should see it.
Okay, I can forward you though.
That's why I'm pressing the fact that is there someone, an element of the college where the citizen can communicate
No,
without,
I'm going to tell you, in that slideshow,
Maybe
you'll
go
see I
directly to
photographed the placards in the windshield that were Wesleyan, and I photographed the stickers on there that showed they were Wesleyan. And I'm telling you, 80% of those cars were Wesleyan students, maybe 90. They just didn't want to walk from the other parking lot.
It will be helpful to us to see that.
Okay.
Okay? I will go back and reiterate, we do want to be good neighbors.
Okay, we've got a very full agenda. Bob, thanks
Okay,
for
thank you.
bringing us your remarks, and we'll take this up under strategic in just a little bit. But for now, we're going to move along to Kim Bjorno-Thorne and Robin Keogh, who are here to address the council concerning the feral cat problem or issues at the river trip. So Robin, Kim, who wants to speak first?
Well, I would just like to say, I'm sorry.
We have to stand up.
Yeah.
Do you have to stand up?
It's for everybody to hear.
It's your
Pretty
call.
loud.
I am too.
You're not going to get tased if you sit.
Okay, just checking. Please.
I tracked down the lady that manages the feral cat colony down by the Riverwalk Trail. I don't really have a dog in this fight. She can, or her husband can tell you, they have folders on the animals and everything. And then when Kim is done, she gave us a paper that has some real good suggestions on it. And I think maybe we could find some mutual grounds, but I'll let them both speak first.
Kim, do you want to speak first?
Sure, so it's actually Biorgo, I've only worked with you for 12 years. Biorgo.
I didn't know how to pronounce it.
That's
I'm sorry.
okay. There's a
That's
G
like
in there.
They didn't spell it right on the list.
It's all right. So anyway, I'm a senior certified ecologist with the Ecological Society of America. I also happen to work at Wesleyan, but I'm here as an ecologist after speaking with the Animal Control Committee. Is that correct?
Care and Control.
Care and Control Committee. My apologies. I would just like to bring up some of the issues that are associated with feral cat colonies, with specific reference to the feral cat colony that is on the Riverwalk, adjacent to the Wesleyan property that is used for ecological research. And so the scientific community, specifically the Wildlife Society, which is the professional association for wildlife biologists, the Society for Conservation Biologists, the American Veterinary Medical Association, and several other scientific groups are all fairly unanimous, or they are unanimous in that feral cats are not ecologically, are in direct conflict with the ecological system in the area in which they are located. So I came to the Animal Care Committee, to speak with them and see if there was some ways that we could get the information out about the feral cat colony that's at the Riverwalk, and then try to come up with a way to possibly phase that colony out over time. There's several different options for that, but feral cats, the science has shown in several different studies that they have a major ecological impact wherever they're located. So my purpose in addressing you here this evening was just to, A, bring it to the attention of the council, and then C, again, as Robin said, if there was a way that we could work with the community to perhaps phase that colony out over time.
Dr. Bjorgo Thorne, did I get it right?
You did.
That makes me the best. So she said the person who manages the feral cat colony. You manage this colony?
I do not.
What does that mean? Why does it mean someone's managing a colony of feral cats?
So feeding, housing.
Okay, so these people are present.
Yes.
Yes, this is Kathy and was your mother, correct? That started?
My mother started it.
Right.
Regardless of what they say.
So I'm guessing you view are you guys in agreement on this issue, or do you view what you're doing as sustaining?
We have not met, so
Well, I'm just gonna make it start right here now.
I'm
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Let me say this. I think there is a universal commonality here that everyone wants to treat the cats humanely wherever they
Correct.
are. But perhaps nobody more than
Emphatically,
you guys, because you're the ones that have engaged in feeding them and trying to provide some shelter, as well as you've engaged in a trap, neuter, release program.
What was your name? I'm sorry.
I'm Kathy Vest.
Kathy.
CATHI.
Okay. And
I'm Jack Workman.
okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Kathy.
My mother, about 12 years ago, started with Pet Door Rescue, and there was over 30 cats there at the park, and she trapped them and found homes for them after they were fixed and had their vaccinations.
We have records
We've
here
got records.
to show that her mother spent over $25,000 of her own money.
Out of her pocket.
She never asked the city for any money to help her. She never asked, this is a small town. $25,000 for one person to spend out of their pocket. And that did not include food and shelter. This was just $25,000 donation to spay, neuter, any kind of medical shots they had to have.
If they were sick.
If they were sick, that she had them taken care of.
They were taken to the vet and quarantined and gotten better.
Or euthanized if they were bad.
Yes.
This being a small town, and she's talking about the ecological effect of having these cats around. You have a beautiful park. I'm not from Buckhannon, unfortunately. She was, or is. And I married into the family, came up here. And of course I love animals. I love all animals.
Sure.
The groundhogs come over and eat too. We feed them. Nobody cares who eats. The ecological effect of this park that she's talking about, you're on the river. The park is on the river. Buckhannon, like any other city, is going to have rats. You're going to have snakes. It's country. People that go into this park to walk their dogs in the park and exercise. It's a beautiful park to be around college. You never see a snake. Yes, they have an effect. They have an effect. They're getting rid of snakes. If they're killing anything, they're killing off snakes. We never see a dead bird around here. Maybe one every now and then, but it's not like they're predators. Cats are predators. You're never in any town you're ever going to get rid of a species like a cat. Kids bring cats to college. They're cute. I've got me a little kitten in my room. I graduate. I can't take it home. I've got a job. I've got to move into an apartment. I've got people move on. What do they do with their animal? They put them out. They're irresponsible to have this cat taken care of. The cat has to go out and fend for itself. We captured one about a month ago. Beautiful little cat. She is friendly.
She's about 10.
She was turned out. She's very friendly. We took her to the vet. We had her spayed.
Rabies, all of her
shots. Rabies. We got her a home. She's a very loving little cat. You're never going to get rid of these cats, no matter what you do.
Well, let me ask you, with the first premise being that we want to treat these animals humanely.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. No one's talking about, Kim showed me a book a couple of months ago when this discussion first came up, and this There is a book out there that suggests, similar to what they do with urban deer hunts, that some communities have engaged in trapping and immediately euthanizing feral cats. That's not something that I've heard anyone here advance. So let's start with the premise that we want to treat these animals humanely. Would you endorse the idea of trapping these animals for purposes of relocating them to families, farms,
We do
where
that.
they would be more welcome?
We've got
We've done
3 outside cats at our farm now.
Okay,
from there.
From the park.
so we do have some
Not to
common
mention,
ground.
not to mention the house cats that we have,
Okay.
that we keep, along with our dogs and stuff like that. No one wants to get rid of these cats as far as killing them. I mean, we all agree on that.
Yeah, unless it's a sick
Unless it's
animal.
a sick animal, and then, you know, I'm not a hunter, I'm not from the country where
Right.
we hunt anything, you know. I'm from the city where everything was graffiti and we shot each other on the street corners. You know, carry a gun. You know, you don't go out after dark because it's dangerous.
Yep, you're not from Buckhannon.
I'm not from Buckhannon.
Well, as many nights as not, even though the river trail supposedly closes at dark. I mean, I'm up at the river trail some nights at 11:30. I, on very rare occasion, have ever seen a cat.
Exactly.
Very rare occasion I've ever seen a snake.
Right.
Once.
Well, there's, you know, like you're talking about eliminating some of these cats.
Yeah.
There was over 30 cats in that park.
When my mother
When her
started
mother
this.
started feeding these cats and taking care of them, we're down now to maybe 10
Okay.
cats. And now we still have stragglers coming in that you're not going to be able to
Do you
stop.
plan to take them all to your farm?
If possible, if I could get them all to stay there, yes, I would.
Because
I've got
there's
37 and a half
ecological
acres.
studies at the Riverwalk.
But cats will return to where they're also, you know, I've had a friend of mine that moved to Kentucky. Someone stole his cat in West Virginia. His cat made it back to his house. He came from Kentucky back to West Virginia.
There's a river there. That's pretty amazing.
I don't know how he got there, but he posted it on Facebook. He said, "You're not going to believe this. My neighbor found my cat." This cat.
My
was-
mother had placed a cat approximately 17 miles away from where she had found it. This was many years ago, before the park, and it found its way back.
They're territorial. They, you know, they grew up here. They like it here, which is a beautiful city. Who wouldn't? What animal
I would
wouldn't?
think though that if you had a relocation program in such a way that the cat was going to be fed and watered and well taken care of, they might be happy with their new home. Is that a fair statement?
The 3 we have are so far.
I tried to broaden the common ground from what
Well,
I've
yeah,
heard.
I understand that. But like I say, we are eliminating it. We started off with, say, over 30 wild cats. Now we've got them, we're down to 10.
We're down-
And you're very close to being able, you don't see them
Yeah, very rarely
often.
do you see them.
They're very friendly with each other. They're friendly with most people to a certain point.
Everybody that I have spoken with, they say
So
they're not
we are
hurting
eliminating
anything.
the problem by catching them and having them spayed or neutered.
Is it possible that you're attracting more to the area by feeding? Because that's how,
No, because on a daily basis, I count on a daily basis.
Dr. Bjorgo Thorne, since you were an
You
ecologist.
just like saying your name.
I do, I like your name.
Yeah, thanks.
In your
My dad would
experience,
be really happy.
in your experience, would you say that if you create a food plot of some type like that, you're going to attract more to the area?
Yeah, the science is solid on that also, that TNR, which is the name for the colonies, trap, neuter, release colonies, do bring in outside cats. And then, as Kathy and her friend also stated, people see a cat colony and they will drop off cats. So ideally, I would just like to see it phase out. If there's 10, eventually they will die. I mean, old age will eventually take them away. If we just don't add any more cats to that colony intentionally, and then perhaps try to rehome some of those cats, that would be ideal.
How are you gonna stop people dropping off
There you go.
cats?
Yeah.
How are you gonna stop
Robin and
the cameras?
the
Yeah.
other lady.
What are you going to do with them when you
I
catch?
worked at Wesleyan Housing Office for 5 or 6 years.
You're going to find me, what,
People have
$25, $50, $100?
Yeah, but if-
Drop
You know,
off my cat.
there's a gentleman that works at Kroger that
Feeds cats.
feeds cats.
People are trying to take care
You
of
know,
them and get them
everywhere.
fixed.
Right, but that's not in the middle of an ecological research area, the Kroger one. That's
But
my,
we-
that's an ecological research area, that's what it was set aside for.
So Jerry Arnold, I'm gonna talk on Jerry for just a minute. We have,
Jerry's like, run.
we have a city cat trapper, Jeff Walmsley, who also oversees our waste collection operations. Is this something that we might be able to work with Kathy and Jack and Kim to see if we can humanely trap these cats and then determine the opportunity to have them relocated in good homes, farms, something of that sort?
Question.
Well, that's going to require housing these cats. I mean, catching them is one thing, but, you know, once you catch them, you're going to have to care for them until you can find
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking
a home to
about
relocate them.
like having adoptive homes on a list before we capture the first cat, that kind
You
of
could
thing.
even give them a cute name like Riverbend Kittens or something.
It's all about marketing.
Or River Walk.
You're
They're
asking me if we
already called Riverwalk
can,
cats.
if Jeff can trap them,
Yes.
yes, he can trap them
I
humanely.
have a doggy cage.
Well, we're willing to, I mean, I'll take, if you could catch 10 of those cats and bring them up there to where the farm is, build me a little place to keep them. Has the city got enough money to build me a cat house?
We gotta build
Or a
one.
barn house for these cats?
I think those are illegal.
I've got 37 and a half acres, you're more than welcome to come up.
Yeah, we
and
actually
build me a nice little
had,
place.
we actually had a building one time on our property that had cats in it that my mom called the cat house.
It's got
And
heat, you know,
she had,
electric, water,
yes,
you know, straw.
And as I mentioned the other day, this is not the time, it's too
Yeah.
hot to trap any animals right
From a
now.
Correct.
humane
So,
perspective,
yeah, it
you
has
don't
to be
want cats
fall.
in traps during a hot
Right.
day, night. I mean, if somebody, if a cat would get caught on a Friday night and no one would check it
Well, you
until
can't
Monday, that would
do
be a
that.
horrible outcome.
Well, we're
Yeah, no,
there,
that's-
we're there
that's-
every morning
I'm
feeding these cats.
like the postal service.
Whether it rain or shine,
Rain,
snow.
shine, snow, sleet, 365, 7 days
I
a
have a
week.
bird sanctuary at my house. I have feeders, I do, and I'm proud of it. And I have all kinds of interesting species. And because I've created that food source, I've developed my own little ecosystem of birds. The ecologists might not be happy with that. But my point is, but because it's an artificial food source. So we've created an artificial food source, and as long as people are going to keep dropping cats off at the park because there's somewhere for them to get something to eat. If there were no food source, the cat would use its instincts to go find something to eat somewhere else outside of the
And then the
research area.
city is going to be overrun by feral cats.
We have a cat catcher, right?
And you're going to keep him busy, and what are you going to do with him?
Jeff Walmsley.
I have 2 squirrels will knock on my kitchen door.
I don't doubt that at all.
Barney and Gertrude.
There's all, you could take all
Am I
these
right,
cats
Mary?
and let them, you know, eliminate them one
But
day.
you said there were only 10 though.
There's only
Yeah,
10
there's only
cats.
10.
there's-
That's the only ones I.
That wouldn't
yeah.
keep Jeff busy all the time, would it, Jerry?
Catching them, Mike. But how many are going to come back? How many people are going to drop off more cats, and those cats are going to find,
And
they found their
you
way
see 'em-
there, they're going to find their way there again.
And you see on Facebook all the time, you know, free kittens, free kittens, free kittens, free kittens. Well, they don't stay kittens forever.
Yeah.
And
But
once
as long
they
as there's
grow
not
up,
a food source there, they're not going to congregate there.
but then
They congregated there when it first started. They were there,
they
once somebody started
were,
feeding.
yeah, they were there, that's,
Well, wouldn't they congregate at people's houses from that point on,
Yes.
if you didn't have the colony?
So that doctor?
So if we, just to make sure I understand you correctly, sir, that if we take the cats out, will cats that are.
If you cut the
that-
food source out at the Riverwalk, where do they go? The ones that people drop off there. Then they go to people's houses and become a nuisance there. I live out in the country, and my mom always had cats. And people would drop cats off to my mom. And the cats out in the country are different than the cats down there. The cats that come to my house that are feral cats are wild animals. I've been going, my mom died 9 years ago. My mom and I used to go to the Riverwalk, and we'd see a few cats. And her mom, I encountered her mom then feeding the cats. And I gave her some cat food. She did a great thing. But like, what happened? you know, like trapping these cats isn't a problem. That man can catch his cats. Finding a home for these cats is your chore. You know, and like everybody that goes out to the dog pound that wants a cat, they go out and adopt the kittens.
Yeah.
How many cats per year are euthanized at the dog pound that they can't find homes for? The cats are happy, they're healthy. I've seen them out there. They look like they're well taken care of. They're not underfed, and they're living in their own little place. I feel they're not bothering anybody. They're not on somebody's back porch beating. Like,
Not your trash cans.
you know, I have cats, and a feral cat at my house has cost me a lot of money because they beat up my cats. I got to take them to the vet. And like I say, she does a great job. She cares about the cats. The cats are healthy, and they're away from people as far as like showing up on people's back doors and you know, and that kind of thing.
And I appreciate the work that you've done to make sure that they are vaccinated and that they do get food and that they are healthy.
Thank you.
That can't be overestimated. I just, you know, that it's a ecological research area, so it would be best for the ecology of the area if we could bring back the naturally occurring animals that are there, the birds, the snakes, and yes, there would be rats,
Copperhead.
most likely.
Well, the birds are still there.
not a
There's
copperhead area.
blue jays that eat the cat food like crazy.
Okay, let's
So-
see if we can establish a list of possible adoptive homes, number one. And when it starts to cool down, not in July or August, we'll engage Mr. Walmsley, our trapper, to work with you. That gives us a couple of months to come up with an adoptive home list. I'm sure there's some folks out there that have farms that would be, you know, more than welcome to.
I put it on Facebook, the one that I got a few weeks ago and got,
Nobody wants them.
nobody wanted her. And she's just a tiny little thing.
And I'd love to help you market. That's the right word? Promote? I'm not sure what the right word is there. But to try to find good places for these cats. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. I don't want them killed. I don't want them euthanized.
Let's start the
Just
list process.
like them.
Where will we take these cats? And we won't engage in any trapping immediately, but along about September, from what I'm hearing, the best plan is to try to find the new homes for the cats when the weather turns a little cooler. All right?
Yeah, you have to set a temperature, not like a date, just saying. It can't be like September 15th. It has to be like a temperature. I apologize for that, but to be humane, you can't leave animals in traps if it's over 75
We'll be sure that
degrees.
Jeff Walmsley acts very humanely. All right? So thank you all for coming and weighing in. It's another one of those issues that I wish we had a collective magic wand to make everyone happy about this issue, and it's probably not likely to happen, but you've got our
Maybe the
assurance.
council could come up with enough money to build a little place for these cats up on the farm. I'll donate the property.
Yeah, well,
I'll donate food,
We have the
shelter,
property.
yeah.
to
I'll give you some
maintain the
names of
shelter.
people to talk to.
Huh?
I'll give you some names of people to talk to that
All
might
we
be able
need
to
to
help
do
you
is
with
somebody come up there
fundraising.
and build it.
For you.
We'll take care
That's
of
what
it.
I gave
Okay, well,
I'll
the
maintain it, I'll feed them.
care.
We'll shoot for something along that line too. All right?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all for being here, and especially for your mother who recently passed on, I'm told. Is that right?
Yes, she did.
It was a,
I even donated my wife to come up here and live.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad that you're located in the
I
Buckhannon.
relocated her back up here.
Next up is Dr. Joseph Reed, who's here to talk with us about green beans. And Green Bean Day, easy for me to say. Actually, it's a whole weekend now. Is that right, Doctor?
Yes, I'd like permission to address two other issues, 1 minute each.
Sure.
First of all, thank you, council members, for coming to our Board of Health meeting the other night and hearing the discussion about the harm reduction program. I think it's a positive thing that we see a community input into these issues. Unfortunately, one of our previous meetings got a little out of hand, but I think the fact that people are coming and speaking their piece is a positive. We've seen the same issue, the same thing with the pipeline issue, with an orderly, I think an orderly discussion by and large about pros and cons. And I think in the long run, it ends up being positive. In that line, Dr. Hortenzio, a physician who practices in Clarksburg, will be at the safety complex on the 26th. I believe it's 7 o'clock, I'm not certain of that, talking about his personal experiences with addiction. So open, come in here, but yes.
Can you repeat that date?
26th, Thursday, I think it's at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Second issue, I was asked by Create Buckhannon today to present suggestions for the Jawbone Park and Festival Fridays needs. 1, restrooms, increased need for women. 2, shade for performers on the stage. 3, recycling or trash containers need to be increased. And 4, lights the bocce court would be helpful. Next, water refill at a fountain. And finally, support for sound system. I have someone else who wants to speak. Apparently left.
They stepped out.
Now back to the main issue.
I snap a no peas.
We don't
I have
Oh, they're not
not a
peas?
gift, but a loan for each of you, gentlemen and ladies. There's exactly 13 beans in each one of these boxes. I would ask that you may be able to snap them. And I'll give you a container to put the remains in.
Do you want us to do it now?
Sure.
Yeah. Get
While I'm talking.
You get 2 of them.
You want the stems off too, Doc?
We're going to do it the way you would do it. Here's trash containers.
Your grandma taught you well, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
No, I was going to get Bob Skinner some, but
I don't do that.
She got going.
Smile all being Mary.
Thought maybe the educated source of the.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
It's the third green bean weekend, August the 9th and 11th. Marie Bray, Ann Ludlow, Jenny Dixon, myself have been the primary people working on this. We would welcome other help. It's established to provide food for the parish house. All the proceeds and the beans go to the parish house. Last year we received 7.5 bushel. We're aiming for 10 this year. Some was used for meals and some at the Christmas dinner. Number 2, to recognize that a lot of people working as volunteers make things happen in Buckhannon. From churches, Strawberry Festival, Relay for Life, car shows, the arts, parish house. Over 100 people work at the parish house. Youth sports, over 400. Booster clubs, 4-H, CEOs, and scouts. Create Buckhannon, Rotary, Moose, Pines, and so on. Number 3, to promote agriculture. Bean seeds were passed out earlier in the year and encourage people to plant them and bring their beans to the parish house. Hopefully snapped.
They'll be snapped.
To encourage good nutrition, we had a green bean recipe contest judged on economy, ease of preparation, nutritional value, and cost. And we aim to have fun. There's no controversy about our issues as far as I know. So come by August the 10th at Festival Fridays and snap some beans. I'll have a bushel of them there. And stop by the chamber office and see Tammy and buy you a shirt. This year they'll be green with white print. $15, or if you grade big, a little bit more. And come to the Green Bean Stroll, Saturday, August 11th at 9 a.m. at the Riverwalk. It only costs a bag of snapped beans for $5, and all proceeds go to the parish house. It's 1 mile of level ground. Stop and smell the roses and have fun and complete the mile.
I've got a proclamation here. Are you going to join me for this one?
I will if you wish.
Yeah, I think you must. I'm going to let you off the hook, ready?
Some of these aren't.
Where did you get that tie, Doctor?
Well, this tie was painted by Ashlyn Hope, who now works for Orion. She's a college student that graduated this year.
I like it.
This is the Green Bean Weekend Proclamation. This is the first combination proclamation I've ever signed.
We did it last year, that
Is
was.
that the way I did it last year? I forgot. Recognizing that hunger still exists in Upshur County and in Buckhannon, recognizing that green beans are a productive and nutritious vegetable crop that is easily grown and harvested, acknowledging that many of the activities are a success in our fair city and county because of the multitude of volunteers who are the catalysts and workers in these activities. We therefore declare August 9 through 11, 2018 as the third annual Green Bean and Volunteerism Weekend. We urge all citizens of our city and county to grow green beans or to go to the farmer's market and purchase green beans, snap them and deliver them to the parish house to help feed those who are in nutritional need this year and the next. At Create Buckhannon on August 9, come and help snap beans. At Festival Fridays on August 10, come by and help snap beans. We invite all to the Green Bean Stroll, 1 mile, August 11, 9 a.m. at the Riverwalk, to walk, run, ride a wheelbarrow, stroller, wheelchair, roller skate, skateboard, bicycle, or red wagon, electric scooter for the handicapped, or any other non-motorized transportation to celebrate the activity. Price of entry, 1 bag of snap beans, or $5. That's a terrific thing you're doing to help the folks of our community. Thank you very much.
Got one with Dr. Reed. I need to get one with mine now. Sorry. 1, 2. Okay. I got one more.
Mr. Nolte, you got it.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Joe. Later.
Thank you for the bean snapping.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Doc.
You guys want one?
No,
Got our beans
You're at
down
City
here.
Council tonight.
So you know there's a similarity between doctors and city council members. Sometimes it takes longer to get appointments than you want.
Our next guest, Andrew Schneider, is not with us tonight, but we do have Evelyn Sucky, if I'm pronouncing that, or Siski. I think it's Siski. Is it Siski?
Siski, yeah.
Ms. Siski, would you like to address the council?
Yeah,
Your home is at Weimer Avenue, is that right?
correct. I don't have much to say. My husband and I are relatively new in the area, and we've been trying to get involved in the community a little bit. And I made an observation when I was at the Jawbone Park with the Friday night concerts, which I think it's fantastic. But I did make an observation about there's not enough trash cans there. They are just overflowing with trash. And I don't know what, the city council can do about that. There were other things, and right now I'm kind of nervous because I got hung up with something else. But there were a couple things at the park, and that was one of the things I noticed, the trash. I don't know how often you empty the trash or who's responsible for emptying the trash.
I'm going
It was
to
kind of
defer
unsightly.
to our Public Works Director, Jerry Arnold, who used to oversee our waste collection operations. We are in the process of fabricating some new trash cans for down there. Jerry, you want to bring us up to speed?
We're working on fabricating new trash cans for Jawbone and some for Main Street. And as far as emptying the trash cans, they're emptied typically prior to the festival, and then on Saturday mornings, the guys go through and empty them afterwards.
Okay, is there any way that there could be like maybe green trash bags that when they start to get full, they can put them in a bag outside, a green trash bag outside? I mean, it kind of looked really nasty, and bees were accumulating. It wasn't real pleasant.
We can add some event cans down there until we get the new cans down. We have some event barrels that we can place down there until we get new cans.
But that was it. But Buckhannon is a beautiful place, and I'm hoping my husband and I can make a contribution to the community, because we very much like it.
Where are you from?
Beg your pardon?
Where's home for it? Mr. Skinner wants to know.
Yeah, where are you from?
No, we're from Baltimore.
Yeah. Super. Maybe bring a few more friends over. We'd like to.
Well, I'll tell you what, with their taxes going up even higher, it might not be too difficult to convince people.
Welcome
Oh,
to
yeah.
Thanks for.
What brought you to Buckhannon? Yeah, we'll give the trash can to Bluegrass.
Ms. Siskey, Mr. Thomas has asked what brought you to relocate here?
You don't really want to know. I have to be honest.
The feral cats.
Don't laugh, that was a problem because we have a cat and it doesn't like the space we provided and it escaped. And I was trying to hook up with these people to see if maybe our cat went with their colony so we can get him back. Okay, that would be one rescued cat. But as far as how we ended up at Buckhannon, basically one day, I mean, we've been looking at different states for about 15 years. And I've looked at Delaware, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania. West Virginia was not on the radar anywhere. And then my husband pulled out a map one day and said Weston is in kind of central, and he was looking at the states. And we decided to look around, and we just fell in love. Oh my goodness, this brings you so close to the Lord. The beauty of nature here, it's just gorgeous. And we were able to find, I lived on the water, on the bay when I was growing up, and there was a home that was on the river, and we just fell in love with it, and we bought it. So we're here, and I have to tell you, I'm outside. I'm sure you've heard of the DC bubble. I had no clue what it really was until I came here. And then I see the difference in people, the friendliness, the courtesy. I mean, when people want to make a left-hand turn on the main street to go into McDonald's, cars will stop and let them go. And I was like shocked. And yeah, and you know, the traffic, I make fun of it now, and I say, yeah, rush hour traffic's really bad, 70 miles an hour on the main highway. Because of course in Baltimore, on 95 in the main arteries, and I'm not exaggerating, it's a parking lot. And it's from about 6 in the morning till 10 in the morning, and again from 3 in the afternoon till about 6:30 or 7. So I mean, it's wonderful. I just feel like I'm still on vacation, and we've been here since November. The people are lovely, the town is lovely, and we really want to be part of it.
We need to get you a job in our marketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm willing.
I have to introduce you
They
to
shot the first video.
Callie Cronin Sams, right over here, the gal with the peachy sweater on. She's our information coordinator. And there might be a good interview here. This could be a great post for our website. So.
Oh, I'd be willing.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to Buckhannon.
Well, thank you. They also have a wonderful senior center. I'm volunteering there. I do big aerobics once a week.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you really? Okay.
Good for you.
Lou Ann Blake was telling me about you. I didn't know your name when she mentioned that, though, the other day. We just had a meeting last week. Yeah. Sure.
And I think as time goes on, as my husband and I get more settled, I'll probably be doing more volunteer.
That's great.
Well, we hope we find your cat.
Yeah.
You know, I do too, because I'm very upset. He's partially feral. I had to trap him. Baltimore had 4 feet of snow, and I had to trap him to get him in the house.
Wow.
But he's never been happy indoors. But I'm very upset. He got out through a screen, and I haven't been able to find him.
Well, Callie will yell to you soon, and we'll do a nice story and feature you on our webpage. How about that? That's great. Thank you for being here. Is there anybody else that signed up to address the council that I know Brian Shreves is going to weigh in when we get down to our city-county emergency plan here in a little bit, but I don't know that we have any other guests. Matt, did you want to address anybody here? You're just here for the fun of it, huh?
Yeah, there's some
Okay.
I'd rather be on for.
We're ready to move into our department and board reports. He's not here. I already said he's not here. Why don't you try to stick with the program? Okay, department and board reports. First up is our information coordinator and grant writer, Callie Cronin Sams. Callie, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. How is everybody doing? I'm
Wonderful.
getting through the cat information to my report. I apologize. There's a lot of informative information there. So in your packet you have the report. It starts out talking about the website like I normally do. And I put this time a little bit of information about the Google Analytics that we've been collecting. So since July 5th, we had 2,934 page views. And that was from 1,499 devices. So obviously some of those, they looked at multiple pages. and that's the difference there. And so it's just kind of interesting to see how people are accessing the site. 792 of those, so the largest amount were on their phone when they found our site. 627 were on a desktop and 80 on a tablet. 1,072, so the bulk of them found it via the search, so they just went into Google or Bing or whatever it might be and searched for Buckhannon, I would presume, and that's how they got to us. And then looks like the second highest was just directly typed it in, but that was significantly lower at 361. And 66 referred from another site such as Facebook or the county's website or the CVB websites were also listed as ones that we got shared from. As far as Facebook goes, we had 3,764 people reached since June 20th, 18 posts. The fireworks, there were multiple posts about the fireworks, both the schedule itself, the reminder about the ordinance, and also the waste collection change. And so those were the posts that were shared the most until today. Today's post with all the flowers, that's almost blowing away all the several posts before that. So note to self, post more pictures of flowers.
Yeah.
Or CJ was in there too, helping a gentleman load up the little free library. So maybe it was CJ, I don't know, CJ or the flowers, I think.
Let's hope it's the flowers.
I think you're safe in thinking that.
So we did get a lot of positive feedback though about how nice the town is looking and how much people appreciate the hard work that goes in, both with Rob Barber and his crew and also the streets department. So had a lot of positive feedback from those. You can see the press releases that have gone out since July 5th. And I don't necessarily, if you'd like, I can go through those one by one, or you've received them via email, but I think we got a lot of coverage from the press from those on the REAP litter control grant, as well as the Stockert, the fitness challenge, and our town hall coming up. Another highlight, let's see, just today, the most recent one, I did want to note that you haven't received an email yet because I was having some issues with my computer, and Raven Rock was in looking at that this afternoon. But before that happened, I did get it up on the website, so the one from today's date is on our website, and hopefully in the morning that will be resolved and I'll get it emailed out as well. So as far as our grants go, Sarah Campbell's been doing a really great job continuing with the Volunteer Center, and we do have our launch for the web component of that on August 15th, and she's done a nice infographic on that, and you can find that online, and that was the press release that's up on the website today too that I was just talking about. Let's see, a brief recycling grant was submitted. I've been providing them with some additional information that they had asked for. I've been working with Mary to do a little research for the Veterans Collaboration Committee, and so haven't found a perfect grant for that opportunity yet, but I'm still looking. And then you'll see, I think it's down in F1, the People for Bikes letter of intent is due on Monday, so I was going to ask you to take a look at that tonight and see if you wanted to approve me submitting the letter of intent to apply. The actual application deadline isn't until October, and we would only be submitting an application if they liked what they saw in the letter of intent and then asked us for an application. I have a bulk of the information collected and the narratives written for the USDA's Community Facilities grant that we're working on for the sewer department and the composting program. So that's getting much closer. And then we've got our upcoming event section down below. Of course, this weekend we've got the Relay for Life. Monday we have the Town Hall with Stockert. The 27th and 28th, the Blast from the Past car show. And then looking ahead to August 15th, we've got the Volunteer Center launch and Community Partners meeting at the Public Safety Complex. And then August 25th is Buckhannon River Fest. So a lot of exciting things coming up on the horizon. I didn't know if you wanted more information about the People for Bikes and F1 now, or you wanted to wait on that.
Are you going to stick around for a little bit?
Okay.
Why don't we wait on that?
Okay.
You have, Rob and Keto had this great idea that I have shared with a number of folks to, at some point, mid-fall probably, after the college kids are back and after school is back in session, to have a community unity and kindness day where we would do all kinds of property cleanups and bring as many people out one Saturday in the fall to just do kind of random acts of kindness. I hope I'm not stealing your thunder.
No, not at all.
But we're going to have a meeting, an organizational meeting next week.
Tuesday, I think.
I think it's Tuesday. Is it at 3 o'clock?
Yeah, Tuesday, I want to make sure you heard this. You say you want to get involved in everything. I think we talked about having like all kind of volunteer groups.
Yeah.
Just the schools, the college kids, just they can do kindness, you know, make cards for kids at the hospital, have a free lemonade stand. Just the premise that everyone can give something. And then the service projects, so we could clean up the cemetery, clean up the dog park. Everyone get plugged in this day and just show, because there's a holiday in the United Kingdom that had 37,000 people volunteering. And it was like an interfaith thing. It was the Muslims and the rabbis cooking together. And we do have a lot of volunteer groups in Buckhannon. And it would just be awesome to just have everyone doing something.
Yes, I agree. And I mentioned this to Sarah Campbell. I don't know if you had the chance to
I got
meet her
emails.
yet.
Yes, so I'm glad to see you.
Yeah, and it'll tie right in with Volunteer West Virginia's campaign is Be Kind.
Yes.
And so I think it'll go right
Kindness
with
and
that.
service. I mean, you know, can't go wrong.
Perfect. Are you going, Robin, to that training session they're going to have about the volunteer?
The first I've heard about this. I'm so glad I got
Well,
to see this.
What is it going to be? 2:30 on Wednesday, August the 15th at the conference room at the Public Safety Complex.
I could probably be there.
Good, because I'm going to be there too, so
Okay.
I'll see you then.
Okay, remind me, call me.
Any questions for Callie before we, you can stick around for F1 if you want to, but I'm going to highly recommend that we apply for that grant.
Yes.
Okay.
I think you're safe. Willow wants her mommy.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice guy. Public Works Director Jerry Arnold. Mr. Arnold.
I'll have the bid package, or the bid package is out with the bid opening on August 1st for the page. The wildfire signs have been installed, and I've been working on and off, when I get out of the office with the crews on some of the projects we're doing. Water Department continue to inspect the water system improvement project on the Old Western Road to Liggett Addition. The water portion of the third lane project is complete, so they're no longer monitoring that project. They repaired a leak at the airport last Saturday and started a line extension in Tennerton for Jenny Nelson. Sewer Department installed taps on Poplar Street and Cleveland Avenue, completed concrete repairs on Wood Street. They poured about 25 yards of concrete for sidewalks, road, and curb. Had planning a total rehabilitation of a 12-foot deep manhole behind Laubert Hose Shop, which requires some major excavation and time in the manhole parging and repairing useful components. Planning an extension on Smith Street, Brushy Fork and Eagle Street that will potentially serve approximately 40 new customers. Working on the decant tank improvements, parging and repairing concrete. We're seeking Sherwin-Williams for paint appropriate for sludge environment. They prepared a bid package to be placed for the UV disinfectant unit, and also a bid package for the F550 truck and stainless steel dump body. I have nothing new to report from waste collection. The street department, the crew continues to work on Traders Alley and North Florida Street projects. We're working on various sidewalk projects around town. Currently pouring on Sedgwick Street, installed a yard hydrant at the dog park. Jay's been working solely on the grant submission of the Gateway West South Side project, which he could have reported on that because he's sitting back there. And there's an email, next page, there's an email that I asked Jay to reach out to a fellow with the DOH about the railroad tracks that are crossing on or on the Clarksburg Road. And you can see the email there that he has reached out to a contact he has with the railroad and asked that he take a look at the crossing and do some possible repairs. That's all I have unless there's questions.
Questions for Jerry? We're optimistic that Mr. Caravallano will, that he's got CSX's attention, all right? I'm hoping. Thanks, Jerry. Jay, what do you have for us tonight?
Mayor, I'm not here to talk about anything other than the city's annex to the emergency operation plan. And I don't know if we want to talk about it now and then vote on it when it comes up in item F, or talk about it in item F. It's
So
however.
take it up under item.
Okay.
Where's Steve McGregor? How's it going? Good.
Off guard. Just have a few things to update council on tonight. Obviously, we continue to work diligently toward CLIA accreditation. In fact, next week, Doug Loudon, Tim Smith, and myself will be leaving for Grand Rapids, Michigan on Tuesday, and we'll be there to Friday the 27th for the CLIA conference for this year. This particular conference, we're going to focus on Power DMS applications. As you recall, I've talked about this in a couple other meetings. Power DMS is the exclusive software application that CLIA utilizes for uploading CLIA compliant policies. So we're going to focus more on that. We do have a user session scheduled with Power DMS individuals for one-on-one counseling for that. We're also going to investigate some of the regional CLIA committees for future mock assessments as we get a little closer to being compliant. Beyond that, after next week, as we move into August, we've been partners in education with the Upshur County Head Start for a number of years, and provide a number of services to Head Start, everything from in-class instruction with our officers. We also provide instruction for their faculty as well. Each year before school starts, Head Start has in-service sessions for their faculty where they have a variety of speakers come and talk about a variety of topics. This year we've been invited back to speak about drug awareness, and that will take place on August 8th at the Way of Holiness. The police department will once again host the annual National Night Out event. This will be our 13th year that we've participated in this very worthy event. As you know, it takes place across the nation on the first Tuesday of every August. This year will be on August 7th. And like many years in the past, we will be hosting this event at the Upshur County Pool. And the times for that, again, on August 7th, will be from 6 to 10 p.m. Format, just like before, working very closely with a variety of community groups and partners to keep this a free event. We're able to offer free swimming and free food for those who come, as well as a variety of door prizes. It's a great way for individuals in the community to come out and get to know not only the police, but all the first responders on a first name basis, and learn what services are available to them. So again, we'll partner not only with community groups, but other agencies as well to partake in this event with us. So again, that is Tuesday, August 7th from 6 to 10 p.m. Look forward to another very successful event. It's been very, really beyond my expectations. The last couple of years, we've seen crowds of 600-700 people show up at the pool, and that's just phenomenal. And then finally, our new officers began employment with the police department at the beginning of July, and they've been going through orientation with the police department. They are staff with myself and Doug Loudon and senior staff right now during orientation. We actually have a formalized orientation process right now. We cover a variety of things, everything from our policies, procedures, the databases that we use, the different laws and the CALEA process itself. Both officers have underwent the medical, physical, and psychological screening, and we're just now waiting on word back from the academy. We have made application to the State Police Academy for both of them to begin training on August 27th. And so we just received word that they are in possession of their application, so we're just waiting on formal word back for their admittance. And we anticipate that to occur, and when it does, they'll again begin training on August 27th and will graduate on December 14th. Once they graduate, they will be placed on field training, which will last 12 weeks. We'll rotate them between a couple of our field training officers to apply in the field what they've learned in the academy, and at which time, after that 12-week period, they'll be reevaluated and placed in the field on their own. The only other thing I have to add beyond that, in the activity report, I mentioned this last month when I was here, a couple of the new changes that I've made to the monthly activity report, one of which you saw last month, and that is the inclusion of more specific data concerning accidents. That is also included following the same format that was created last month. But the second thing that we'd identified through adherence to CALEA standards concerning traffic was the same specific criteria for traffic enforcement. So we were just waiting at the time that wasn't available in last month's report. We were still trying to create the makeup of that and come up with an algorithm for that, which we have, and that is also included in this report. So both of those items, the specific data makeup of accidents, as well as the breakdown of the traffic, which includes date, day, time, location, and the violation, and it's divided by each officer. That is available. The one thing that you will notice in this, there's really no good way of avoiding this, is sometimes it will identify something that is not technically traffic. For instance, there's a couple of charges in here of public intoxication. These are charges that are issued on tickets, which are used in that instance as a summons, but because it is issued on a ticket, it shows up on this report. So just overlooking that, this does satisfy all the data that CALEA is wanting for this specific item. So I just want to point that out to council. That's just yet another change statistically, organizationally, that we've made to some of our reporting. You'll see a lot more of that as we progress into our annual reports to include much more detail on some of the various items that we do.
Thanks, Matt. Questions for the chief?
Hey, Matt, I see of the 18 accidents, 5 of them are on Marion Street. 3 of those are on a Friday, and they're all 5 of them, the manner of collision is right angle.
Right.
So is this partially attributable to diverted higher traffic because of the...
Yes, I believe that it is. And that's another benefit of organizing this data more specifically, to be able to look at it, because the goal behind what CALEA is hoping to achieve with this is to being able to identify problem areas should they exist and come up with strategies to address that. In that regard, we are currently rotating our speed trailer around the area, side streets leading up to Marion Street, as well as citing our officers to monitor traffic in that area, hoping that when we come back with the July spreadsheet next month, that we see a difference.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate you. Tell the guys to be safe. Amby, I apologize. I leapfrogged right over you.
Well, that's the one I thought you forgot, and that was okay because I didn't have anything. I just do want to mention a couple things. I don't really have a report.
No budget revision?
I don't. I had that to report. We hired our new water plant operator, John Petrulik, the third of Buckhannon, and then they're going to take applications for the sanitary plant. So anybody's watching TV, we're going to take applications for a line and maintenance labor. We're still working on the audit. They're doing an extremely thorough audit, but I hope they're almost finished. I assisted the county, and we got the public announcement out on the LED digital sign to
file or pay your taxes online at www.upshorecounty.org. And worked on a FOIA request and several other daily routines here in the office before taking vacation, so we're a little shorthanded. And then in your invoice, your bills, when you get to those, just a couple of out of the ordinary bills, the final payment to the fireworks gentleman, and a invoice paid to Volunteer West Virginia, an admin fee for Stockard Youth Center for the Vista Volunteer.
Thanks, Andy. Any questions for Andy? Thank you very much, Andy. City Attorney Tom Neal.
Thank you. My matters are all covered under Section F. I defer to that.
Got a few of them coming.
Portion, yeah, with a number of items, but I'd be happy to take any questions from the council on other matters that they'd like to discuss at this time.
I think we're good until we'll give you your time.
I'll be back.
I'll be back. Correspondence and information, a number of things in your packet. Next week, July 23, that's next Monday evening, and it is at 7 o'clock. We're going to have our town hall meeting to discuss the Stockard Youth and Community Center. Please come out for that. Tell your friends. There's an email in your packet regarding the issue with Wesleyan parking from Mrs. Bonnie Hardman. We've already done the Ron Kid Day proclamation. You've got 2 notices of proposed adoption of amendments to the zoning ordinance that will come up at, is it the next meeting, Tom, or is it?
No, it's they have to be on third reading at the 2nd August meeting, so.
Okay. August 16th. All right, so you've got that in your packet. And there's a piece that's just a ridiculous analysis that does not particularly favorably rate Buckhannon. They looked at 125 cities in West Virginia. I didn't know we had 125 cities. I mean, some of these cities I'd never heard of. And I'm a lifelong West Virginian. But it has us rated 75th out of the 125 cities. And I want to sue those people. So anyway, I don't know.
Let's just inform them.
Yeah. Well, that's suing them is one way of informing them. But anyway, I put it in there for your enjoyment, and we're going to take some umbrage with those folks. But the consent agenda, there's 5 items. The approval of our minutes from the last regular meeting on July 5th, the approval of our building and wiring permits, the approval of the payment of our bills, the acceptance of the resignation, 30 years of service of Jane Redcliffe on our Zoning Board of Appeals, and lastly, her recommendation that we appoint her daughter, Jenny Redcliffe Duran, to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So, those are the 5 matters comprising the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion that we approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner, a second by Mr. Rylands. Is there discussion on that motion?
Very quickly, I think that we should invite Jane here for as much as she's done with the spelling bee and different community events over the years, and to serve 30 years on a board. I think we should invite her here to be recognized.
I agree.
Proclamation, right?
Well,
98-cent frame.
She was there when Dorothy was there when I first started.
Yeah, Jane came aboard the Zoning Board of Appeals just a few years after I started.
Yeah.
That goes back a long ways. So, yeah, we'll reach out to her and invite her to an upcoming meeting. Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve our consent agenda? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries. Takes us down to the biggies, the strategic issues for discussion and or vote. Callie, who just does a superbly terrific, rambunctious job for us in finding these grants, had recommended that we approve application of this People for Bikes grant. It's all in your packet. I've looked at it yesterday. It's a terrific sounding program. I would entertain a motion that we approve the application of that grant application.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Albaugh and a second by Mr. Rylands Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries. Takes us down to F2, Dan Hill Construction, that, as you know, is the general contractor on the Innovation Center project, has requested the use of some property that is titled with the city as a staging area where they want to store their structural steel and some masonry as that's being installed. Jerry, you want to tell us more precisely where that is?
It's the old farmer's market lot between the Latham House and the bank drive-through.
Right.
And currently, I had Teresa check, currently there's 2 spaces reserved in that lot, long-term spaces that have been reserved in that lot.
Is that Mr. Lubin at the Triangle?
No, sir, he hasn't renewed the lease on those reduced spaces. So
Can we reassign those couple of spots to permit the full use of that lot in the months ahead while the building's being constructed?
we could find other accommodations for the 2 spots that are currently leased.
Okay.
But again, you know, that's up to council as to whether this is just as a well, and then use, or if you're going to try to seek some kind of monetary compensation for the lot.
How long do they want use of the entire space?
Yes.
They'll need it for.
The steel that they're bringing in, of course, requires flagging because of the length of the steel, and there's about 15 tractor trailer loads of structural steel that have to be offloaded in close proximity to that building, or it's going to be a huge expense to truck it in.
Can I interject something here? The way that material, just so we are all aware, will be trammed from that staging location beneath the Latham House all the way up to the construction site is going to be on a telehandler going about 2 miles an hour up and down that hill loaded with steel, and cars are going to be flying around that thing. I'm just making everyone aware. They're going to use a telehandler to get it back and forth. Another more reasonable option would be for them to stage somewhere outside of town and then coordinate with their project managers to have trucks deliver material as needed for each portion of the construction. I'm just making everybody aware that that's going to happen if we let them store there.
I want to be fully supportive of this project. And they've asked for this. It's going to take us several months of everybody being inconvenienced by it. I'm inclined to recommend to the council that we approve their request. It will be a pain in the you-know-what.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
How many months?
6 or 8 months.
It's, well, right now they're at stop work.
But the masonry and the steel should be up in no less than a month and a half or 2 months.
Right, and the steel's the major.
Yeah.
That's the major component we're talking about.
When are they going to be starting this?
Well, they're delayed a little bit right now while they're re-engineering some facets of the building that, because of the lot not being as wide as what they had designed the building for, they're retooling a few things. So they're kind of, maybe a month setback? Is that a fair statement?
I'd say they'll be 30 days behind.
It's going to be going up right soon.
Yes, I would say within the next months, you'll notice some things being brought in, and that's why they're trying to make preparations for more space.
Everybody recognizes that this building is going to be a tremendous asset and improvement to our downtown. And we support the Development Authority in many ways, financially and in other ways. I think it's just the right thing to do, that we forego that little bit of revenue. We only had 2 spots that have been rented recently in that lot. It's not like people are lining up to use that property. So let's, rather than milk the cow, let's let these folks.
You're looking for a motion.
I'll second.
Here.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner and a second by Mrs. Albaugh to approve this request. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign.
Nay.
One nay vote by Mr. Rieger. The motion carries. F3 is Resolution 2008-15, which would be the acceptance of the deed of dedication of Milkman Lane. Mr. O'Neill, I don't think we've reached the point where we have a deed, is that right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
F3?
No, I was, Jerry and I were conferring about that issue.
We don't have it. We're awaiting the description.
We are awaiting the survey
From
so that
Mr.
we
Buckhannon.
so that I can draft the deed.
Which we may have in the next couple of days, but.
I don't know, we had him on the phone today, and when I asked if it was possible just to get a plat, I could hear him laughing at the other end of the line. But Jerry was on.
We'll take it up at the August 2 meeting. Does that sound fair enough? Yeah. We're getting it. We thought it might be ready. That's the reason it was on the agenda. So F3 will be tabled. F4 is the approval. You remember Bryson was here at a recent council meeting. I think it was just the last one, wasn't it? Requesting us to approve, to accept really, the contract with the West Virginia Culture and History Division with the new $61,000 grant respecting our Colonial Theater. We had gotten notification that morning on July 5 that we had got that, so we weren't able to put it on the agenda. I would entertain a motion that I be authorized to sign that contract, not contact, with the West Virginia Culture and History Division.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Skinner. I have a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. F5, the approval of the City of Buckhannon's annex to the Emergency Operations Plan. I would tell you that over the last couple of weeks, a number of us have had input relative to this plan. Jay, Amby, Jerry, Tom, Matt Gregory, J.B. Kimball, and just when they thought it was all done, I marked it up this morning, and
That was 7 minutes.
Just a few little typo edits and things like that, but I think we are in position to advance this plan. Is that a fair statement, Jay?
That is a fair statement. I placed the plan at the front of everybody's packet today, so I didn't know if you'd had a chance to peruse and review what's in there. But basically what the city's annex is, it's the guideline and process that we will follow in case of an emergency occurring in either Upshur County or the city of Buckhannon. But it in no way requires us to follow the guidelines of what the county is doing. So what it means is, there are 10 talking points, and this is where I need to get my glasses back out, of the plan. And, it delineates who's responsible for what the order of government is, what the continuity of government is, what will happen in case of an emergency, how people will be notified, what departments are responsible for their respective duties during these times of emergencies. But if there are times when the city's resources are not able to keep up with the disaster, we can reach out to Brian and the Upshur County OEM, it's been a long evening, and have them secure some of these resources for us. They're not trying to tell us how to do our work. We treat the water, we treat the sewer, we know what we're doing, we're qualified in that. It's just that this is an edX to help them go after state and federal resources that we might not otherwise have access to. Brian, you can jump in at any time.
Basically, it just gives me the right to be a resource allocator for the city of Buckhannon from the state of West Virginia. If Matt needs stuff from the National Guard, he can call me, I can get online, request it through the state of West Virginia, and they will approve it and they will send it to Matt. And in doing that, if it comes through my office, the city is not liable to pay for those resources. If the city was to go another route and request the resources themselves, then financially liable the city would be for those resources. But if they're requested through the proper channels, then the city is not liable for the resources.
It's like a safety check. It's
Yes.
a safety net. You know,
Safety
we
valve.
can get those same resources, but we just have to go through Brian as the authorized representative, and we could be reimbursed and possibly and be not liable for paying of those expenses.
And once the disaster is declared, it opens you up to FEMA reimbursement, and we do the FEMA reimbursement documents, and everything is kept. I'd have to get with Amby and all this city heads after it was done, compile a list of what the city spent, and then put them off to FEMA for reimbursement.
I think it would be safe to say that a dozen years or so ago, when we engaged in an earlier permutation of an emergency plan, it was almost exclusively about first responders, police and fire. And as we've evolved with other experiences throughout our region, especially the poor folks down there in Richwood,
absolutely.
Nicholas County, Greenbrier County, with the flood of a couple of years ago, just horrible stuff. It's come full circle that, gee, you got to have your streets department engaged, you got to have waste collection and water and sewer and your information coordinator. Everybody has a role if there is a substantial emergency. And that's what this annex does. It's a greatly expanded document from anything that we've
And I
ever.
can just tell you how, and Matt can verify this, the last flood we had, that the county declared a disaster. How long did we try to get that street closed? We tried for hours and hours to get Route 20 closed at Speedway. Finally, I got on the line to the state EOC and told them the problem. We had it shut down within 30 minutes of me making the phone call. It's just we have to go through the proper channels to get someone that has a higher pay grade than any of us in here to say, yes, you can shut the street down.
And lastly, if adopted, it is kind of like a two-step adoption in that we have to sign off on this, and then Brian, I'm assuming, will present this to the county commission at their next meeting. They will sign off on it, and then finally, Brian will sign off on it and submit it to the appropriate governmental
And I actually
agencies.
spoke to the commission today, and they're on board, because we had a commission meeting today, they're on board with signing it. As soon as you all sign it, they're going to sign it, and it's going to go to the state of West Virginia.
This is set up sort of like one of our resolutions would be, with individual council member signatures. So you know what this is about. We've been talking about it for some time. I think it's a very exhaustive, thorough plan. It's my recommendation that we do this. I would entertain a motion that we approve this annex to the county emergency operations. I'll move. Second. A motion by Mr. Rylands and a second by Mr. Thomas. Is there discussion on that motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. The minutes will reflect that, except for the absence of Council Lady Capari, the motion carries unanimously.
Dr. Reed.
We've already passed it, Dr. Reed, sorry. What do you got?
Question. I've asked questions several times in the water department relative to the public service district water distribution system. Is there a place to go to get answers where the connection may be?
You mean like
relative to health department considerations?
Are you meaning like in a disaster where people can get potable water?
Well, one thing is the generation. I mean generators to run the pumps. I know that's been addressed by the OEM.
Yes.
And one question is lead in distribution pipes. Those are the two questions that come to mind, but there are other occasional questions that the city water department doesn't seem to have the answers. And I'm just wondering, is there a way to go other than going to each public service district to get answers to this question?
We don't control the public service.
I understand that.
We sell water to our 4 public service systems. All the water that is consumed, the potable water in Upshur County is delivered by our plant though. Jerry, you wanna chime in here? Jay?
I was going to say, I think one place that you're going to get the answer.
And I'm not sure if I understand the question, Dr. Reed, but if you need to draw water, if the PSDs are unable to get water from us due to a power outage or anything like that, they can come to the water treatment plant, and we have different size connections that they can fill up, water buffaloes or trucks or gallon jugs, be what it be. I mean, I don't know if that's the question you're asking, but there is always the ability to take water from the water treatment plant, and the distribution system.
I guess I'm asking, as questions come up, is there a place to go to try to get answers where the two tie together, other than going to each public service district?
We can't speak for the policies of, I don't, we just cannot speak for the policies.
No.
Yes.
Thank you.
They're separate governmental entities.
Yeah.
If it's the city, the corporate system, that's a different ballgame. We can answer those questions.
They have a plan, written plan for it.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Jay, on the water stuff, except for us to
We
put
have
our
to sign.
John Henry?
I don't know if you want to start and just work your way down. There's a spot, you have to,
right down there.
and it requires the blue pen, so I've provided the blue pen. You will need to sign and date, and just so you know, this isn't anything new. This is updated every 3 years, and the 2015 one was actually accepted July 27th of 2015. So we're just a week out from doing this on a 3-year basis.
Date of what?
Today is the 19th. F6, ordinance number 426, a zoning change respecting 29 Armory Road from C2, that's Commercial District 2, to Industrial District. This would be the second reading on ordinance 426, the second of 3 readings. Am I right, Mr. O'Neill?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. However, given the publication dates, the third reading will take place 2 meetings from now. So let me read the ordinance as is required by caption. Ordinance number 426 of the City of Buckhannon, and ordinance amending zoning ordinance number 244 and ordinance number 282 of the City of Buckhannon by rezoning a portion of that property located at 29 Armory Road from C2 Highway Commercial District to I Industrial District. This is the second of 3 readings.
I would entertain a motion that we approve ordinance 426 on our second of 3 required readings.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Rylands. May I have a second to his motion? I have a second by Mr. Rieger. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing of the need for none, I'll call for that question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign, motion carries. F7, ordinance 427, which is a zoning change respecting 3 consecutive successive lots at 52, 54, and 56 South Kanawha Street, basically extending our general residential, actually, we're changing it from R2, general residential district, to C1, which is downtown commercial. This would extend the property up from where Kreitz Electric is, up 3 more big city lots going up toward Quality Hill on Kanawha Street.
I had a phone call today from a neighbor on Smithfield Street that her backyard borders a couple of these properties, and she was just curious to know kind of what prompted this and what, if anything, major was planned that this would, prompting the reason for this change.
There is a building that's going to be raised and probably a parking lot developed at some point in the coming months or the next year. And the various neighbors have petitioned the city together to accomplish this. They are all on board with it.
I would note, for the benefit of that neighbor, that the adjoining lot that is zoned, that will remain zoned R2, still, the rezoned property will still have the greater setback requirements from the line because it borders a property with the R2 zone. So for setback purposes, all of those R2 properties that are around these 3 lots will still have the same.
I don't get the sense that she was against it in any way. I think she was just, curious.
Yeah. And there will be a public hearing August 16th.
August 16th.
Yeah.
On both of these, on the previous one and on this one, we'll do public hearing.
Any further discussion on the motion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of passage of ordinance 427 on the second of 3 readings, please signify by saying aye.
Actually, I'm sorry, this is first reading.
Oh, I thought
We're
this
only
was
doing
second.
No, we only actually have to do 2 readings, but we usually do 3 on zoning because of the 30-day notice period. But given that we don't have to do that, we're just doing 2 readings on this one.
Okay, so it's the first reading. I apologize. We did talk about this. In the last council meeting, but, so I corrected. It's the first reading. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion. I don't think we moved. Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, we did. I did.
Allball,
Second.
motion, Skinner, second.
Only Rodney knows.
Yeah, we'll watch it on YouTube tomorrow, right, Rodney? Yeah. Okay, F8, ordinance 428, which concerns the residential parking around West Virginia Wesleyan College. Tom?
Let me speak to, this was reviewed in draft form at the last meeting. Let me highlight for you, based on input received, the differences between the ordinance as discussed at the prior meeting and the draft that's before you now for first reading. Based on feedback, there was question about multi-unit housing, apartment buildings basically, and a concern expressed about each apartment being issued 2 permits. We've changed the definition of dwelling so that any structure or any lot, any piece of property that under the zoning ordinance is required to provide off-street parking, and that would include apartment buildings. But if the lot owner is required under the zoning ordinance to provide off-street parking, then that owner is only going to receive 2 permits for the whole building, and not 2 per dwelling, not 2 per apartment. That's one change. The other change has to do with the definition of a resident. That tenants of owners of property that again are in multi-unit buildings are not considered residents for purposes of the ordinance. That is, that individuals who live in apartments that must, under the zoning ordinance, provide off-street parking are not eligible to receive residential parking permits. Again, the property owner will, and then that property owner can do with those 2 permits what he or she would like. The last change was to the effective hours of the ordinance. In the previous draft, it was, I think, 9 to 5. And in this draft, it is 8 to 4. I think the reasoning behind that had to do with the targeted intent of the ordinance, and the fact that classes start closer after 8. But you may have an 8:30 class, and by 4 o'clock you be clear for evening events and not run into the problems that were expressed with individuals who are attending events in the vicinity of the college in the evenings.
It is just Monday through Friday.
Only Monday through Friday. And I think also, actually, state and federal holidays. State and federal holidays, or on any day that the city council may, by motion, designate. So if the city wants to suspend these rules during the Strawberry Festival, it can do so. If it wants to suspend them during annual conference, it can do so. If it wants to suspend those rules, the council reserves the right to designate other times in which these rules would not be in effect.
Okay, and it does provide for the erection of signage in section 2.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, you've heard the reading of the ordinance by caption and the explanation by Mr. O'Neill. I would entertain a motion that we approve on the first of two readings, ordinance 428 of the city of Buckhannon.
I'll make a motion, but not that one. I'd make a motion, we table this based on the conversations that were earlier this evening. I think we ought to give the college an opportunity, as Mr. Skinner indicated, to see the presentation by Dr. Reese in regard to the issues that are there. I don't think it's something that we should do right now, but I do think we need to work with the college and, you know, whether the students is parking there in the residential or letting cats out, you know, part of the responsibility is to get the kids to be more responsible. And I like to give them an opportunity to do that. So I would make a motion to table this until we have a chance to work with the college further and with the students.
I would second that motion.
You've heard Mr. Thomas's motion and a second by Mr. Skinner. Is there discussion on that motion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor of tabling this matter for now to be revisited, let's say by our first meeting in September, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the mayor will abstain.
Minutes reflect.
I am
And I would
gainfully
like
employed by the college and have been for the last going on 36 years, and rather than me be deemed to be taking sides one way or the other, I'll just stay out of that business.
Tim, you're willing to, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tim, oh, that's right, you're fine.
Tim, you're willing to get with Mr. Skinner you together and not just show pictures, you know, go take a walkabout.
Right, and the
Okay.
thing is, that won't be feasible until the students are back.
Right.
And then that, maybe that's good.
Yes, that's fine, that's fine with me. That's fine with me. There were a couple comments made about that that you have something that the students need to do, grade school kids or something like that, that parking would not be able to park there, but it wouldn't be there anyway because the college kids would take it off. It's not like it's not like that's going to affect them. So I'm willing to have a table and discuss with Wesley, but it's not like this is a new thing. I don't you know, they haven't been blind for 10 years. You know?
hopefully now that we've taken the steps
Right.
to create this pending ordinance, gives you credibility with your claim, you know, with the claims and the
Right.
position, the points
Right.
that you're making, that hopefully
They're gonna listen.
their attention is
Right, I don't know
on this-
what
on
the
this
solution would be, but
let's work
Well,
together.
I
and
think
try
that's
to-
why, I mean, if we can open the lines of dialogue between the neighbors and the college, I think maybe, you know, perhaps we can come to a solution without adding yet another ordinance on.
right, I can't think of any other way to stop it. I've been watching it for years. But I do have a question. Can someone tell me why from Meade Street all the way to the football field, both sides of that are no parking on Camden? You know, if they put parking there, that would take all that student parking away from these streets because that'd be so close to everything.
I think a big part of it is out of pedestrian safety concern.
Those big sidewalks, big curbs, and people, you know, walk on College Avenue all the time as well too. So, you know, it's just odd that you come down to Camden, it's packed up, bumper to bumper to bumper, till you get to Meade Street, then it's wide open. I think it's more for you than anything else. And if they're going to consume our parking, why don't they use theirs?
Jerry, you want to comment on that?
I really don't have an answer for why it was ever, or not ever used for parking there.
On Camden Avenue?
No, I don't have an answer.
I'll tell you what, we will put it on the Consolidated Public Works agenda to at least start a discussion and let others weigh in as to whether that should be something we ought to consider.
That would be more parking that's even used.
And that could be part of your conversations with them
Right.
on a comprehensive approach.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Sure.
And some of us are gonna go actually,
The ordinance has not been rejected, it's just being tabled for a while we give time to explore these other cooperative
And can I say
opportunities.
something else? I would like to apologize for being a little anxious there. I was patiently waiting for our F whatever there, and all of a sudden it was brought up in front of me, and I felt ill-prepared to say anything. So I kind of got offhand and I interrupted some people that were talking. I'd like to apologize for
You're
that.
fine.
you're fine.
Ordinance 429, which is the first of two readings on an ordinance that formally reforms our Buckhannon Planning Commission. Mr. O'Neill explained this process at the last meeting. We did a resolution allowing for the first step in reforming, reestablishing our planning commission. This lets the paperwork catch up with it more legal wise. Tom, you want to light on
I
it?
can't add much more to that, Mr. Mayor, except that this ordinance tracks very closely with the resolution that the council adopted at its last meeting. It sets out the findings that were contained in that resolution and fulfills the mandates placed upon the city in state code. It limits the powers and authority of the Planning Commission to those expressly granted by state code or by the county city council, and establishes the initial terms of the 7 public members of the commission and identifies the 2 statutory members of the commission, one being a member of the council, one being a member of the city's administrative department.
After we get this ordinance on the table, I do have one little thing to suggest, a tweak to it. But I'd entertain a motion that we approve on the first of 2 readings. Ordinance 429, I have a motion by Mr. Rieger. Second. I have a second by Mrs. Albaugh. Discussion on the motion.
I think it would be would behoove the city to give serious consideration that with this planning commission that there ought to be a representative from the college and one from St. Joe's. I think
that's not permitted by state statute.
Okay, it's not permitted by state
statute. It's not permitted by. They have to be 7 at-large members. But I think your idea is a good one, and as we look at future appointments to the commission, we ought to, I think informally, ought to, you know, instead of identifying them in the ordinance, I think it'd be a good idea to try to reach out to that part of our chemistry. Absolutely.
I think that's critical.
Yeah. I concur with you in spirit, but we can't put it in the ordinance.
That's fine.
But my request is under Article 1A, rather than to establish an anomaly with the appointments of the Planning Commission, you've got to establish that this would be done by resolution. I'd rather it say by motion made during annual appointments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
On Article 1, Paragraph A.
I see.
We don't want to have to go with a full-blown separate resolution every time we go to appoint the members of the Planning Commission. Does that make sense, Tom?
Yes.
Does that make sense for the rest of you guys? Okay. So the question is begged, subject to that amendment to Article 1A, would we be good with allowing the city attorney to make that in advance of our second reading at the August 2 meeting?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Anybody opposed to that? Then all those in favor with that one edit amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries with that amendment. That's it for strategic issues. That takes us down to comments and announcements. And first up is A for Apple, J for Jack. Mrs. Albaugh, what do you got?
You're aware, but our rest of the people don't know that. We're, the Veterans and Collaboration Committee will be meeting on July 26th at the American Legion Building at 10 o'clock a.m. And we've got a good group of people, the Daughters of the American Revolution, members from the VFW and American Legion, and also members of the city, like with the Teats.
And the Scouts.
And the Scouts. So we've got a good group, and we think it's going to start off really well.
Super. Anything else, Mary?
No, it's late.
Pam Caperi is not here. Mr. Rylands?
I just wanted to reiterate some of the points that Doc made, advocating for some of the things that came up in the Create Buckhannon meeting today. That the trash cans, I mean, we donated 2 of those kind of wayfinding trash cans to the city some time ago, that maybe they could be part of the installation at Jawbone Park. I know when we ran the conduit, we ran it over to the bocce court, that if it's possible to get one LED light at each end in the trellis, that would be great. We've been talking about sunscreen for 5 years since we started with the main pavilion there. Tried to get the city architect to agree to something, and that's been a challenging endeavor. So at some point, you know, we will continue this, but it's, I don't know if there's a way to make that happen, but there's a need, and the entertainers on stage, you know, are getting exposed to direct sunlight for their whole show, and it's really not in their best interest. And we all have also are faced with the shortage of a sound system. We think we can get through this year, but next year is a challenge. But we have agreed to donate at a minimum $5,000 to the city towards a sound system that Mr. Urban has designed for us to be a permanent outdoor asset at Jawbone Park. So if that can move this along by the last week of May in 2019, there is going to be a very specific need for this, and we'd like to make sure that's in position by then. So
we'll try.
That's it.
That's a nice down payment on a nice improvement. Anything else, CJ?
That's it.
Mr. Skinner?
Well, what a meeting.
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
You know, I try to look at things from a positive standpoint, and I think one of the things that you can take away from a meeting like this evening is the issues that we talk about. We're very, very fortunate. You know, we've got some cats at the river trail. We've got some cars parked that, you know, on a few side streets. You know, I do a good bit of traveling around the state as an insurance agent, and some even outside the state. And what you see here and what you see elsewhere are night and day. And our city looks beautiful. Main Street is, I think, probably the prettiest this year. I keep thinking every year Robbie Barber can't outdo himself, but he keeps doing it. And you know, we had a great 4th of July ceremony with beautiful fireworks. You know, we have so much to be thankful for here. And I believe that part of what makes this community so great is that we figure out a way. We always figure out a way to move forward by collaboration, involving the most amount of people, and coming to a solution more by consensus. And I appreciate that about Buckhannon, and I certainly hope that we can do that with, you know, issues like the needle exchange, issues like the parking. I'm optimistic that we can move forward together by putting our heads together and coming to solutions from organically from within. So you know, you can look at everything two ways. I choose to look at things positively, and I think we're really on the verge of making this place, from taking it from very, very special to extraordinary. That's what I got.
All said. I like it. Mr. Thomas?
Geez, I'm not sure how to follow that.
I don't know either.
But I agree with you, David. 75th out of 125. We need to take a serious look at that.
It's crazy.
What that group is. I appreciate the conversations we had this evening. Tim making the comment oftentimes that the individual's property is somewhat devalued because of things that occur. I think the college needs to be very aware how important it is to maintain their properties also, just like our residents. That's critical, and I think sometimes we haven't done that quite the way we should have in the past. But housing enforcement's a tough issue, and we know that there's individuals that struggle all the time. I think this day in October that you talked about, David, with Robin Keogh is something where there's a lot of people that just can't do things to their property because they don't have the physical capability or the financial capability to do it. So maybe that's something that can be put on that working list. I also had an opportunity last Thursday to attend the health department meeting out at the new conference center, the needle exchange program. And I talked to a lot of people in the next 3 or 4 days after that meeting, and one thing I'm always struck by is some people just dig their heels in and don't want to listen to the other side in a rational, logical way. They already have their minds set, unfortunately. I had a long conversation with Sue McKissick today from the health department, and there's an awful lot of misinformation out there that I think needs to be talked about more and more. I don't have any suggestions for that right now, but I had to get off the phone because I had someone come to the house, and so I couldn't finish the conversation with Sue. But we had a very enlightening conversation from my perspective, and I think that hopefully in the next couple months, 2, 3, 4 months, the health department will evaluate this needle exchange program, and I would hope there were several suggestions in the meeting Thursday that maybe a committee or task force be put together to evaluate, really the effectiveness of what's going on, but also take a look at reviewing, are there some things that can be tweaked here and there to make it more effective, or some things that may be dropped on what they're currently doing. So I think we need to have an open dialogue. We've talked about drug issues in our society today, in our local environment. We need to address the problem, and it's not just the needle exchange, but it's a whole totality of how we're going to deal with our societal problems. And a lot of people that are using drugs, they do it for different reasons, and I wish we could figure all that out, but it's something that we have to deal with for the future. But I feel very good. If people have questions, talk to the people on the health board. They have a lot more information than we do. But again, we need to sit down and work as a community together and have an effective plan long term. That's all I have to say there.
Thanks, Dave. Well stated. I want to especially thank and I want to be sure I pronounce your last name right, the Siskis, right? We hope to have you back for some more meetings. Mike Kozad and I, back in February, collaborated on this latest little gimmick to raise some more money for our new multi-purpose space at Stockard Youth Center. And if all of our pledges come in, we're going to top $4,000. Mike pledged initially $10 for every pound I would lose, which was supposed to cost him $200. He's given me his personal check this evening for $1,000. Wow. So I've done my first 1,000. I'm going to match this with another $1,000 pledge toward our gym. So
way to go, Mike.
It's not too late to bring them out. I have a short closing statement, and then I need to ask the council for a short executive session. We'll have a 5-minute recess after our adjournment.
Make any kind of comments, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I used to do that to Alloy all the time.
Well, she elbowed it.
I don't have any comments. I've spoken enough.
Oh, by the way, I would be remiss. The last council meeting 2 weeks ago, it was another one of those 10 after 10 jobs. And we went down, this guy took me down to the 88 and bought me a beer. And it was karaoke night. And he challenged me to sing. And I said, I'm not singing for free. And he said, I'll give you $1,000 for the Stockard Youth Center. I said, make it $1,200 and I'll sing. And so $1,200 for Stockard Youth Center for $1,000.
Amazing things that
Actually, had barely touched the beer. And it was an excellent performance of George Jones.
Yeah.
He stopped loving her today. And I do have the video on my phone. If
We
anyone's
get that on the city website?
Yeah, probably so.
That's the #1 country
think you
song
should-
of all time.
Yeah.
I think you should
Well,
post that on our city.
We are trying to inflict great public relations here.
Yeah. All right, this is closing comment. This Saturday evening from 6 to 11 p.m., our Upshur County Relay for Life folks will conduct their annual ceremony and celebration in Jawbone Park. We have all been impacted by cancer in some way or another. I've lost some of my best friends to this horrible plague. Chums like John Scott in 2010, Howard Johns just earlier this year, among so many. My 3 siblings have all battled and survived cancer. Our own Sam Ludlow has battled cancer and survived. Rob Rupp has battled cancer and survived. A very good friend was just diagnosed with thyroid cancer in June and had her procedure in July. My list goes on and on, as I'm sure your own lists go on and on. I always thought of myself as an empathetic person, supportive of my friends, people I care about. But until the past few days, I don't think I was as empathetic as I thought I had previously been. You see my bandage on my right temple this evening. Just yesterday morning, I had a 1/4-inch area removed by a scalpel from my temple, and for the next 10 days or so, I will await the lab results on what exactly it was I had removed and what might still be there somewhere. My blemish started out a couple of months or so ago as a mere dot, a new freckle, and evolved a few days ago to a dark oozing sore. It was a little nodule that was above the surface but also beneath the surface of my face. Now there's anxiety, apprehension, and that self-edifying process of searching the internet and becoming familiar with terms you had hoped you'd never have to become well acclimated to. Terms like basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and melanoma. I don't know yet that I have any of those things, so I don't want to trivialize the cancer diagnosis that has been all too real to so many. Thousands of people every day undergo the kind of procedure I had performed yesterday, so in the big picture, my little cut isn't such a big deal. But now, I await the results of my biopsy. There's another term I never thought would directly impact me. They cut and scraped on me and froze some other spots, and I guess I may have a little scar there on my temple to remind me about this little speed bump in life's journey. Until you're confronted with something like this, you can't fully identify with that anxiety and apprehension experienced by others. You can't really say, I know what you mean, or I know how you feel, unless you've been in the same predicament as that other guy. Now, at least the next 10 days or so, I'm that other guy. I don't like this moderately scary sense of not knowing, of feeling vulnerable. It's new to me. It trumps the many other things you need to think about and focus upon. It lurks near your many other thoughts and impulses. It gets in the way of your best work. But my closing remarks tonight honestly aren't about me. What they are about is my own advice to all of you other guys. Be smart, go get yourself checked. Wear a hat, they said. Use sunscreen, they said. I don't heed good advice sometimes. I'm obstinate and headstrong. Go get those mammograms and colonoscopies. While you're at it, pop in at our Relay for Life event on Saturday evening down in beautiful Jawbone Park. Support our really good friends in their wonderful endeavors there. There are a lot of great survivors there, some real heroes and care providers with stories way, way better than my own lame effort tonight. While you're there, you can check out Rob Barber's tremendous flowers and the nifty new sidewalk along Traders Alley. Put on your best mountaineer outfit to support this year's Relay for Life theme, but also, remember, to put on your hat and sunscreen. Don't forget, we're all in this together. Thanks for attending this evening.
Well said, David.
We'll see you together. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn at 9:35. Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Executive session. Executive session.
Oh, yeah, we do have a 5-minute break first.
Are we doing decisions?